Oh. I'm not good enough. Hello.
At least you know it.
Yeah.
Very few people are.
All right.
Come on.
Oh,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
skibbity bop bop bop, bippity bop flop bop, flippity bop bop.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Wildly Uninteresting podcast, episode 135 with Damon, this fucking button, Damon Thompson. Welcome to the show, man. Did I say it right? Or did I wrong?
Yeah. Damon Thompson. That's my name. I'm a Louisville artist. I do murals. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure to have you out, and I'm sorry that it took so long because I know you had an injury, but we appreciate you making it out
What'd
here,
you
man. We
break?
appreciate your time.
I had no cartilage left between my bunion and my big toe, so they just fused the bone.
God.
A fusion,
crazy.
bro.
Oh.
It's a metal plate with like 6 screws attaching it.
Yeah. Could you walk at all? Like with crutches or anything?
I prefer to pooch scoot from like, the couch to the bathroom.
What?
Just drag your butt and pull with your arms.
Oh, okay.
Is that really what you did? 'Cause that's awesome.
I had a chair. Like I would just wheel myself with my...
Your arms are just ripped.
Yeah. That's why I wore a tight shirt today. They're going to know I didn't just sit around. I did just sit around.
So you're a local Louisville artist, or local artist from Louisville.
Yeah.
I guess that would be better to say, right?
Redundancies.
Unfortunately, I didn't know this before. Stephanie had told us to look you up and look up your art. I thought you just did murals, but you do painting. You do a wide range of it. It's not just murals, right?
I do a lot, and I've done a lot for a while. I started really early in high school as a part of the visual art magnet program at DuPont Manual, and I learned oil painting, acrylic, how to draw with charcoal, pen, and lots of stuff. And then as years gone on, it's something I've made it my lifelong mission to be a full-time artist at some point. But I didn't want to start right away because I noticed most people that are 18 or 19 they're not usually taken seriously in anything. They're just looked at as kids.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll use this time to travel, get into trouble, live my life, experience new things. And But yeah, since at least I was 30, I would do regular art fairs where I sell paintings. Mostly at the time was oil and canvas, but in the since 2016, since lots of my friends use spray cans and they did graffiti, I wanted to see how I could apply that with the direction I had been in with art.
Yeah.
And so I'd work with them doing characters next to their letters, and then I eventually realized I wasn't going to get better until I actually did it a whole lot more. So I built a wall in my backyard, and at the start of 2020, I was spending every Sunday doing a different piece in my backyard. And then as the pandemic hit, I was out of work because I had a job at Habitat Restore, and I didn't know when I was coming back. I knew I was getting paid for at least 2 more weeks. So I just started hitting anyone I knew up that had a wall or a garage or something. I was like, hey, man, let me just come over and paint it. And as that snowballed, it ended up being from March 21st, 2020 till May 8th. I did 45 murals inside
That's awesome.
in the Louisville area.
Damn it, man. Well, that's I noticed that you said, especially on the article, that you weren't accepting initially you weren't accepting money, but you would take like donations or something of the sort, right? You were just looking for something to paint.
Yeah. Anymore, I have a pretty good but affordable price point, but at the time, I just didn't want to not be working. I can't imagine the idea of just sitting at home every day.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to be outside.
Yep.
And so it gave me a chance to pack my gear, have a plan, get to a location, finish it or 2 locations in one day, and be home by 5 or 6 in the evening. Yeah. And people started offering money, and it just seems it's smart to just say yes. I mean, it's expensive. It costs around at least $50 to $100 in paint for each job. So I was like, all right, this will help a lot.
See, that's I think is lost, especially on the younger people, is that And me, really, when I
Stupid
got
youths.
started in the trade, I just wanted to get paid the most for doing, whatever I was doing. And now that we've picked up like videography and podcasts and stuff like that, you have to do things like that for a while for free, just so that you can gain experience. And you were already experienced, but a lot of people have to gain experience. And the younger people, they just want to get paid right out of the gate. They want to be good right out of the gate. So that process of doing it for free just sounds absurd to them. Like, I'm not going to do this for free or
Yeah,
move
like they should
forward.
never be a starving artist. They should just immediately be well off.
I'm gonna be a
I mean-
fat artist.
I'll say this though, a lot of people stay suckered by you'll get experience and exposure for this for a lot longer than they need to.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's really cool for if you're 18, 19, 20, but like, you should understand if you can see their stuff and it's good, like
Yeah.
that's seeing is believing. Like, you can tell somebody that might want to do it to get better versus someone who's like, it's less trouble for you to just pay them something.
Right. Well, that's that. With the videos, I just felt like we had to, get better at it. But in the trades, it's different. When you're actually doing physical labor for somebody, I think it's easier to ask for money. But it's just, I guess it's just tough. Being an artist is tough for a lot of people, just because I don't know why it's tough for a lot of people. You said you broke the code and figured it out. But
The situation's way different currently than it's ever been in my lifetime.
Really?
It was extremely hard. I mean, by the time I was 21 and made my first go of going at it, you had to have slides, which was a painstaking process of knowing how to use an analog camera. And then you would have a slide sheet. You would send it off to galleries, and they would, based on these little squares smaller than an Instagram
Yeah,
square.
it's like this.
Yeah, they would say yes or no to whether you could be
That's
represented by
ridiculous.
them.
wow.
You fully have an audience that is the entire world now, as long as you have Instagram or a Etsy site. Like, you can. There's never been a time where artists could reach such a wide range of people so quickly.
Right.
So it's especially if you're just one person in an efficiency apartment, like, it wouldn't be hard whether you're good or not, as long as you have consistent, fresh output to gain a following, the friendships, the people that will consistently buy your stuff, and as YouTube has shown us, Patreons that will pay you just for being you.
Right.
Yeah, that's a crazy ideal to me, because it just doesn't make sense. I grew up where YouTube was, becoming a thing, I guess, when I was in high school, right? And then like social media started getting big right at the mid to end of being in high school, but it wasn't like you were getting paid for it. It was just people on the internet expressing who they were, telling their feelings, showing their talent, stuff like that. But then they started getting paid for things, and it started being this real outlet for people to make a living from and all that, which I thought was so strange, because, and I can see how like older people would be like, that's just ridiculous on the
You're
things that
never
we
gonna
command.
make it doing that.
Yeah, because even me, I was like, that's no way. You have to like work hard, travel in a van, and live off of scraps while you're playing music and whatever. It's super hard. But now it's not. Like, now you can reach the entire world just posting a video. That's wild to me. I think it's wild to anybody. But growing up when it wasn't that, and then becoming that, it's just weird.
The talent pool becomes so much more extraordinary too. I had someone I knew to be into really awful music, like had the mullet like 10 years after, like by 95 he still had it. All right, like I ran into him and he's listening to Nouvelle Vague, he's listening to all this French New Wave. It has a very eclectic I'm like, how did you get cool? Like, and it's because of the internet. And that's happened not just with musical taste, but artistic abilities. Or you can just figure it out. Like, it was so hard to go. I would go to all of the libraries, and I would get all the books, and you draw a box, and you curve the edges, and now you got a car. And so, like all the ways that I came up, you can just find the YouTube video that shows you how to draw it.
Dude,
and
without a
people
doubt,
get good quick.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's so cool. And then they have their friends, and then it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's I always felt like with guitar, I would always learn off the internet. My dad never understood tabs. He was like, "What is this?" Because he played by ear, and I'm like, "It's amazing. This is how I learned. I didn't learn by notes or by playing by ear. The numbers on a board, and I was like, I can just follow them." But it always blew him away. And you can get much better, even with like trade work and being plumbers or electricians, stuff like that. People are learning from the internet and then like doing their own work or whatever. And they're more informed, so that when somebody comes in and tries to charge them, they know better like what the pricing scale is, like what goes into your job when you do it and stuff like that. Now, art, on the other hand, or music, is completely different because it's literally a talent from like within. I think it takes like I can learn it from a book and put together the pieces, and there's codes and shit like that. But with art, it's all creativity, and that's a completely different area, I think, for people.
Were you gonna say something?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Talk over us.
Yeah, I'd rather hear you.
All right. Well, something that you're talking about when you talk about guitar or songwriting, and I think it's true for comedians, and it's especially true for artists, is the moment in your life where you're actually living. And it's easier to have adventure before you're 40 and to have a wealth of knowledge to draw upon, to put into your work.
Yeah.
To understand that I can write this song about love because I've been shattered, or I know what's funny because I've seen it with my own eyes.
Right.
You know, like these things, you can't tell someone that's getting a degree and they're finishing their BFA at 20 years old, draw upon your innermost experiences and put it in your painting. And they're like, what? When, like Kelly said, I had a bra on because I had 2 patches on my chest because I scraped my chest skateboarding. Like, you know, like what's, you know, like what are you drawing on? You didn't live. You finished assignments.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
You know,
dude.
like
yeah. There's I'll watch after school and some of the art that they put in those videos, man. You see humans on one side of this conveyor belt going through a machine that's called school, and then on the other side you see that the thing is like, you know, taking their brain out of their head, and they give them a diploma and shit like that. It's very that kind of work, you know what I mean? And it always just like, I feel like school deadens the creative process. It deadens that person inside of us that are just, because I didn't do well in school, but I feel like I am creative in a sense that like I can put forth effort and make something that's decent, you know. And I feel like without school I would have been better because they forced me into this corner to learn their way, or, you know, what they wanted me to learn. And I hated it. I hated every bit of it. I would draw on my, you know, my papers and hand them back in. I fucking hated it. You know what I mean? So it gave me resentment towards that system. And I think it deadened me after I got out of high school because I was like, well, you know, I can't make it as an artist or a guitar player or a video maker, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is not a possible. I need to go to college. And then I fell out of that. You know what I mean? You know, I tried to fit into that category and never did. So.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's where I mean, of course, like school is something you have to do. It does kind of deaden you if that's not kind of what you fall into, but I guess you need people to nourish that creativity in you. If you don't have that at home, a lot of people, they don't get it anywhere else. I mean, you have school and you have home. And I mean, if that's all you have and no one is nourishing that like creativity in you, what are you supposed to do? Hopefully once you're out of the school and out of the conveyor belts, you can kind of branch out. Especially now, I mean, like with the internet and stuff, you can look about and find some things and be like, oh, I like this. I'm going to go down this path. But before it was much more difficult.
Yeah, most of the artists and music that I listen to is like shift from like, they don't play over here. It's mostly like from the UK or from overseas where they don't tour over here. And I wish they would. But a lot of them I find from there, and it just baffles me that I can like music that is being created on an entirely different continent. That's crazy to me. But, you know, I know that Lance, he was on here a while back, but he does art as far as, I don't even know how to explain his art, but he uses like packets from Black and Mild rappers, stuff like that, and he creates a piece
Found objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was pretty cool, man. Like, I didn't know that he was an artist, but maybe there is a creative person in all of us, but it's just deadening the
You
process.
gotta find what your thing is.
Right.
I could never make something out of a black and mild wrapper. I mean, ever. For any reason.
So
You could at least make a cat.
I'm garbage. I could definitely make a cat. I can make a cat out of everything.
we painted these trees together, and Sarah had a mental breakdown. I'll put a picture in the video, but hers is the purple one, mine's the red one. And I had to take over the process because Sarah broke down
I literally started crying
because she couldn't draw
excessively.
branches. I was
'Cause
like, well, just
Excessively.
excessively. It was excessive.
Oh,
I
yeah.
could not comprehend how to do the outline so I could paint the inside of it. I was like a tree. That'll be easy. I was fucking wrong.
I've seen millions of these things.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's this and branches. No, it's not that and branches. It made me so mad.
So here's a real question, right? So I like we did a few videos. I love doing them, right? I love the setup and the process. Love it. Not so much, this is, normality, but like in the creative, like producing something, right? A video. I like doing that, but I like the fact that it's free at the moment because there's no expectation. There's no I guess there's no pressure in that moment. You know what I mean? You can just do and create and be fine. Kind of like when you first started just finding something to paint on, right? Was it easier for you when you weren't getting paid and all that? Or is it easier once you're paid and you know what they expect and you know what they want? I mean, was it better when you weren't getting paid? Or is it better now when you are getting paid?
It can go a few different ways. I try to steer the conversation. Like, I let them know that they're the one that came to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I have the power.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
Huh?
and so if, for one, I keep busy enough with my own projects. I mean, I have at least 20 paintings going at all times at my house.
Damn it.
And so if somebody's getting a hold of me, my first initial reaction is, I can't be bothered by you, to be perfectly honest.
I got
But
plenty of shit.
that's why
That's so good.
I assign my wife to reply for me half the time because
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? They don't want to
that's
hear what I have to say because I'm a jerk. But
It's so
I
awesome.
like it when there's a spark within the project. Usually it's the photo of the wall that gets me excited, but sometimes it's what they think. Sometimes. And and I can build on that. It's the enthusiasm that fuels the stoke, and
Yeah.
staying stoked is the difference between it being good in the end and being not. The money is just a means to an end. It keeps the machine going.
Yeah, it gives you the ability to keep going on the process. But you said, man, that's something I did with Sarah. Like, we started the company. I was fine for a while, but customers can be abrasive. They can be, I mean, they're just,
Yes.
it's hard to deal with. And then, they're paying you, so they expect, you're kind of like a servant in that manner.
Especially with electrical work, yeah.
Yeah, and they see, especially if you do it like out in the East End in the good neighborhoods,
Yeah.
you are truly a peasant at that point. But
I'm used to buying and selling people.
We
This
have
is okay.
a servant entrance in the back you
but
can
that's,
use.
I told her, I was like,
It's
look,
really annoying.
it is super annoying. I told her, I was like, look, since you can like kind of detach yourself from the situation, you don't have to be there in front of them. I was like, you take all the calls and just make the schedule and I'll go out, like put it on a paper. I'll follow it during the week, whatever. And sure enough, I mean, it worked a lot better because I was getting to a point where I was like avoiding phone calls, being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't being myself where I was like inviting. And so she had to take over because I was like, I'm going to lose work.
It works
Yeah.
very well.
Well, with what I do, it goes strange a few ways. Sometimes we'll have had a whole conversation and then I'll find out they don't even have a wall. Like, that's happened before.
They're like, we want you to bring one with you,
Yeah,
please.
Or it's
Build me a wall and then paint it.
or we'll be talking about, we'll have the picture of the thing and it's like, oh, that's really great. I do these kind of like psychedelic faces of recognizable people or flowers sometimes. And then they're like, well, can you just make the whole garage look like a Highlander cottage? I'm like, well,
What the shit?
do you know what I do? Like,
Yes. How would you feel if we had talked about having you do something. How do you feel about like do your own thing? Like
instead of us giving you a direction.
yeah, say you
Well,
do
that's
what's
part
on
of the
your
reason I
mind.
keep 20 things going all the time
Yeah.
on my own, because it's really, if you're stumped by that, that's a sinking, horrible feeling when
Yeah.
somebody says, do your own thing, and you don't know what your own thing is.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
that was actually part of my New Year's resolution. I have a journal next to my bed, and I'll try to draw my dreams when I
Oh,
wake
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And then I'm cutting up magazines all the time and making little collages, and on top of learning how to better do things I know look good on walls. Like I'm working on a lot of flower paintings right now. It's not because like I'm a flower child. It's just they like when you apply all the colors that I apply in like almost like a graffiti way with like dynamic fills and multiple light sources and inner and outer outlines with blings. When you do that to a traditional item like a rose, it looks real cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does
And
look
so,
very cool.
And it gives you more options, because not everybody wants to look at a big head all the time on the wall outside their
Yeah,
house.
because that's what I liked the roses you did on where I don't remember where it was.
That was the last one I did before the end of the year. That was on
Yeah.
a fence off Taylor Boulevard,
Yeah,
right across from the
Taylor.
entrance to Churchill Downs.
Yeah,
behind
I
the Speedway.
love that, and that's what I love flowers because I am a flower
She is
child.
it, yeah. through
And
and
I
through.
just
Yeah.
absolutely love them, and you could just do the whole house in flowers, and I would be just fine with it.
Yeah, man.
And I can see so many. It unites two warring factions. You know, you have the Martha Stewart Garden Center
Yeah.
people who are probably the absolute most vocal anti-graffiti people on the planet.
Yeah.
And then you have what I do, that when they merge together in a yard and you see a cool wall like I did with those flowers next to an actual garden, it no longer becomes a war. You see how these
Right.
divergent aesthetics can be blended.
Oh,
Absolutely.
maybe you're right. Maybe I do like that.
Yeah.
Right after
Yeah.
they complain or call the cops on you.
It shuts
Damn
them
it.
the fuck
He's
up.
vandalizing.
You know, that's I've tried to do running different projects at the same time, because I feel like sometimes I get either stumped or bored, in the sense that I'm like, where am I even going with this project? What is the sense in making it? Because I feel like I'm wasting time if I'm not making money. You know what I mean? If I'm not out working and shit. So how do you, I mean, I don't know if you deal with that, but like I always don't start other projects because of that roadblock of it's a waste of time, or I'm not making money from it or something. So I talk myself out of doing, random projects on the side while doing that main project.
Your time is valuable.
Yeah.
And you need to make time for the people you love. You need to make time for family. You need to make time for adventure. You need to consistently know that this is all consuming, but you have to cut it off at a certain point. And I had to cut off woodworking. I was really getting into it. I had all this gear equipment. I'd rebuilt my deck. I'd built an implement shed behind my garage for all the yard implements. And I at the end of it, I was like, I just lost a month and a half where I did no painting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay, it's time to realize that I can't take on. I have a tendency to overdo anything I get into.
Yeah.
Like take it too far. Like if you end up having a table in your living room with 4 mics and 5 cameras, like you might be the person that
Yes.
takes things too far.
Yeah.
You know? Like, so
I'm telling you.
limit your
sorry.
hobbies. Even extreme sports people, they have like all this equipment for 20 different extreme sports. It's like if you focused in on one, that might be the way you want to go.
Yeah.
I've been told that a couple different times by people that are like, just focus on one thing and then do that very well. And it's been my problem my whole life is like, I would always take on a project like a week or learn something new. But it's always been one of my big problems is doing that, like taking them on, not finishing them. But about the 5 cameras, when we were doing the video, the reintroduction for Lance, I made it seem like, oh, we're just going to bring a camera. You're going to talk in front of it, whatever. We're going to make this video for you.
Yeah.
And dude, the equipment, he was like, I didn't know it was going to be this. I probably should have assumed just because of how I am. And didn't he? He was like,
Yeah.
we had all this equipment, man. And he was like, what the fuck are we
He
doing?
felt
Like,
ill prepared because of all the stuff that we had.
we had like, 3, 4, 5
have
cameras,
lights and
I ran a
sound
circuit
equipment.
for this warehouse so that we could get a light and stuff on the. It was ridiculous, dude. But that's if I'm really into something or I want to do it.
He
Not
does
like
it
electric.
100%.
I go full throttle and like we're doing this right now, So I do have that issue and I need to work on that because my expectations for myself and others is like way up
Yeah,
there for
because
some reason.
being 100% is great because you love doing it and he's good at everything he does, but he expects everybody else to be at 100%, where most people come into, activities and hobbies and stuff at, maybe 50%. And
I'm gonna dabble.
yeah, absolutely. And then it leads him to lose some of that drive because they're not at 100% also. And
Let me reduce to their level.
no, I say stay 100%, but just
Oh,
know they're
absolutely,
going to
but
be
I
at
guess balance
50%.
it
Yeah.
more.
With his accommodating
Yeah.
ass. Like, oh no, it's cool. We'll work at your level. So
But
does it irritate you to drop hobbies to like save time, or are you cool with it?
Well, just as all the items on this table and around us can fall into the category of stuff that's powered by electricity, and he's an electrician, it's a branch off of a main focus. And the same thing with me practicing calligraphy or style writing, and also collecting stickers and black books and all the things that I do that don't make money. They are hobbies related to the main focus, and
Yeah.
one informs the other. So I try to keep it with. I allow myself indulgences, but not outside of. Woodworking was close because I started it because I'd make stretcher frames to stretch canvas on, but then
yeah.
the prices of canvases became affordable because the world economy things became readily available. You used to never be able to get. You couldn't go to Hobby Lobby and get a pack
Right.
of 6 for $5.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild the things that we can. I'm at the point where I could just throw away paintbrushes after using them once. I used to treat them like they're gold.
Yeah.
Like
Never
push the
gonna,
hairs,
never gonna lose
get the
you.
form right. Like
That's fucked up.
it's like I just buy the multi-pack at Walmart.
That's
these
so
suck.
true, man.
So are you not picky about brushes?
I destroy all brushes. They
Yeah.
never last long. Some of them I'm picky about. The pinstriping brushes that I use for detailed lettering, they're really expensive, and I try not to have projects that require them.
No shit. We were looking into paintbrushes and stuff when we were trying to get into painting, and man, I was like, some of that shit gets ridiculous. I was like, I guess there are markets like that. You can buy the off-brand that's not as good or whatever, but it's usable. But even with like cameras, that's why a lot of people are producing more, and there are more people on YouTube and shit like that, because like a 4K camera is on your phone now, and it looks really good. When we proved that with that video, it amazed me what come out of a phone. And we put it up on the TV. I'm like, you can't
Yeah, it looks great.
it looks great.
Yeah.
So everybody has the opportunity to be a creator or an artist and stuff, because the things that used to be so expensive are now, throwaways, which is a bad thing in a certain way, I guess, but it's good for those who want to create. And because I used to be poor, so we would just make do with whatever we had, country boy style, go in the back, get a cardboard, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
stupid stuff. I used to make roller coasters out of paper and balls and shit. And I would just create because we didn't have much, you know what I mean?
That's where your creativity comes from.
Probably. This is because you come from not having the material. And I wish I had that. I wonder if my life would have been different one way or another. I would have either taken it for granted, and I would have been like, well, I can do anything, so whatever. Or I would have excelled more having the products there. You know what I mean? Like the good piano or the good guitar or whatever. You know what I mean? But that's one of those things. It's so much easier to create now. And so I don't. So it's a lot harder to make excuses as well, because I love excuses. I'll come up with a million, I can't do that because of whatever,
Yeah.
But
My dick's too big.
even with
It's a great excuse.
electrical work, man, I'll talk myself out of that. Even though I know I can do it, I'm just like, I don't know, I beat myself. I'm like, you can't, take on whatever project. And it's like that. It's really like that, man. You talk shit about yourself. I guess you're your own worst critic, or do you love your work?
There's usually a price point at which it no longer looks like a burden.
Oh,
So
really?
if I'm like, I really don't want to do that, then I'm like, do I really want to do it for these many zeros? I kind of do.
Kind of feels right now.
I'll throw this number at them and hope they say no, and then they don't, and then you're like,
dude,
all right,
yes.
let's do this.
Yeah, he does that.
I'll go.
And it happens all the time where they're like, yep, let's do it.
Because they can't find somewhere, or that your work is so good that they're just like, whatever, we'll do it. Man,
a lot of times people really want me. Because I have a list of
Yeah.
referrals, and unfortunately, those people did not end up getting the job a lot of times.
Yeah.
Even though I had faith in them, and I believe that was like, I don't suggest someone because I don't think they would measure up.
Right.
I have a very short list of anyone I give recommendations for, but it really bums me out when it just comes to like when people get a hold of artists, they want you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't replace it because we'll give out numbers. If I truly don't, even a number wouldn't make it worth it. We'll pass out a number for it. Like,
and it's got to be somebody you believe
Right.
will do it. You can't be like the guy that burns his hands and then comes in, like.
Yeah, that terrible dude. Then everybody hates that guy. No, but you're completely right. That's how we'll do it. We'll go and I apologize for saying this for any customer listening, but hopefully, whatever. It was a one-time thing, anyways, most of the time. But man, I'll go, 3 times over what my normal price would be just to be like, well, if they say yes, I'm going to make it worth it.
Oh, why?
Well,
She's fine.
she's all right now. She's fine now too.
Well, just as people can Google, they'll probably have Googled it and understand the circumstance. Like, this might be the prevailing wage for this assignment, but we don't have anybody that wants to do it within 200 miles. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll just go ahead and pay this.
Yeah.
Or we'll wait until that person shows up.
Yeah, especially like out in the country and shit like that, Shelbyville, Simpsonville, LaGrange, shit like that. There's not a whole lot of, I don't know if there's any on some of those, Bloomfield, there's not a lot of companies. So those people, when they really need something, they will pay because nobody wants to come out there because there's no supply house and stuff like that. It's very hard to do that. And luckily we can at the moment, and that's fine. But I wondered how that was, because I always tell them, and I've said on the podcast before, like, if my work was for free, like if I could work for free and still like live the life I live, right? If I could do things, I would honestly take on those harder projects and shit, because there's not that stress, there's not the customer over your shoulder all the time, there's not that inner voice like, oh, you're gonna, you're a piece of shit, your work's a piece of shit,
You're gonna electrocute yourself.
Yeah, shit like that, So I always felt that, like, if I wasn't getting paid for something and I could do it and live, it would be better. But I don't know if that would hold true, you know what I mean? I don't know if that...
It's a grass is always greener type of situation.
Yeah, it seems like, right?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
That's why it interested me that you took on, you just wanted to paint on people's stuff. Like, give me something to paint on and let me do it. Because I've always wanted to do that. Like, let me work on your shit and we'll talk about price later. Like, whatever you feel like I'm worth, if we could do that and they'd actually pay me, a good price, because they'd be like $5.
Actually, he's called a couple companies before and asked, can I just come work with you? And just for like the experience. And the companies they don't want to do that.
Well, yeah. I've tried to make it a habit of letting people come with me, and it's usually let down, but sometimes it's a surprise. I found out that a lot of people are afraid of heights.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like being on
Absolutely.
ladders for
Nope.
hours.
I see.
Imagine that.
You're an educator as well, right? So you teach people how to, at this point, don't you?
I've taught a few classes. I don't have any like quote unquote classes going on. I try to do informational videos on TikTok right now. So if you see me on there, I'm usually talking about the trade, so to speak, of murals and doing art. I do answer any questions. If anyone wants to ever get a hold of me at Damon Paints on Instagram and you have a very specific question. I answered a question last week about how can you paint acrylic over top of spray paint.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
you put down a matte medium over top of it, and you can usually work it that way. So I like to be the go-to source for anyone that has specific questions
Absolutely.
and answer them as often as possible. I don't think people are getting those kind of like draftsman key supply questions answered by the art store always.
Right.
Although Arts and Craftsman does a really good job because everybody that works there are artists, and at Preston they'll answer those questions. But it's hard to get. Nobody teaches spray paint,
Right.
You know, like I had to learn because all my friends did graffiti, so I knew the difference in caps and cans and brands. But unless you have a bunch of like outlaw hooligans that smoke weed every day, like as friends, like you're not going to figure it
Right.
out. Like,
That's what you were saying. I watched a TikTok of yours where you were saying that you kind of mesh both, whereas you lay down. I'm going to f the process up, but you like lay down a rough outline. I don't know how it works, but you do it like you're.
if you
doing
watch any
graffiti.
simple video, you do the people what do letters, they'll do an outline, they'll do a fill, sometimes a 2-color dynamic fill. They'll do an outer outline and then a force filled, and then they'll put like highlights or blings or little white lines around one side to show directional light.
Yeah.
That's just a basic formula, and a drop shadow, and then an outline around the drop shadow. But if you take those and apply it to a portrait, which was what I attempt to do and do successfully at this point, and then I also use some basic techniques of shading that comes from my background in fine arts. It looks way cooler than what a lot of people are doing with portraits or with flowers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what it baffled me because being a service electrician, I drive around all the time, which I love the one over there on Spinelli's. I think it's Brownsboro. It's Spinelli's or something over there.
The one I did, or
Yeah, the one you did.
Yeah, that's St. Matthews. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just baffled me because I've seen that art, and you can tell from piece to piece that they're from the same artist. But after, Stephanie had told us about you and we looked it up, it was baffling to know that those pieces come from somebody. And look, I guess you don't put those pieces together.
Put the face with the person.
Yeah, until you see the artist doing the work. And it was just wild to me. I'm like, I see these every day. I thought these were like done by, whatever. But, somebody, a local guy from
Just
Louisville.
done by a person.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the work looks.
That was the second one I
clean.
did that day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, you did 2 in one day?
Yeah.
How long did it take for...
The first one I got there at 8 and finished around noon, and then I got to that location probably about 1, and I would have been done quicker, but this Land Rover had pulled up, and some scrawny dude comes running at me with his like tucked in button up shirt and his phone
yeah.
out. Like, who gave you permission to
God.
be here?
Wow.
And I said, it's none of your business. So I was like, no, I'm not talking to you. He's like, oh, well, I'm the owner. And I'm like, oh, well, enjoy.
I know, right?
You should know already what
And
this
I
is.
just put the first lines on, so there's no way he knows what's going on. He's like, what's it going to be? And I was like, it's going to be graffiti. How about that? And like, he just freaks out, gets in his car, drives off, comes back. He's like, I talked to the owner and he doesn't know about this. I'm like, what the? You said you were the owner.
I was just
Right,
saying, didn't
yeah.
you just say
You're
the
just
owner?
lying
Yeah.
on top of lies.
And the whole thing came out to the fact that basically he's the maintenance man. Like,
Oh.
or
He ain't
represented the property management company.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
yeah,
I'd be
wow,
like, apparently
dude.
you're not that important because you're unaware
Yeah.
of this big project going
Bro,
on.
he thought he was cracking the case too. He was like,
oh yeah.
I got my phone. This is going to go
Gotta
viral.
document it.
Yeah.
If he tries anything, I'll go viral.
They're gonna give me a cape
that's
for
exactly.
this.
What a weird human exchange that would have been. I'd have been like, what are we even doing here, man?
Yeah.
Well, here's the kicker: is like, so this whole time, I noticed it right at the end when I'm taking my at the end shots. It's a really windy day. There's a loose gutter. It's about a 10-foot length. That the whole time we were arguing, it was holding on by one screw above our heads. And I'm like, at any moment, that thing would have blown off and just scold us.
take
Like
him out.
really, both of us. We were arguing underneath of it, and it's his job representing the property
To
management.
fix that.
And of course, like he literally fixes it next week, and the pipe goes straight through one of the faces that I just painted.
Wow.
Which
Of course it does.
would have put that face there if I'd looked up. And, yeah.
Of course it does.
That'd be a
Yeah.
fun way to stick it to him. Like,
Wow,
I'm
man.
done, but it's
Yeah.
ruined now because of your shoddy maintenance guy.
That's
But no,
not-
I'll
I
fix it for $300.
liked making notes. Anytime anything noteworthy happens, I'll write it down in my journal, and it is fun to reread that one later. But,
Oh yeah, that's a good exchange.
but in general, like it's so funny. At one point, the cops kind of stop and they look at both of us, and I'm like, "Yeah," and they go honk honk, and they're like, "Yeah," and they just drive off, and his whole face gets red at that point because he's just like,
Oh man,
"What the hell?"
nobody's gonna help me. What the fuck, man? That's wild though that there's people like that all over the place, especially now. For some, I don't know where this whole thing come at, where they run up with the camera and then they're trying to catch you in some shit. And I've seen a lot of things online, and I'm like, I don't think this person was really doing anything wrong. I think you're kind of harassing them with this phone, trying to entice them to do something, slap it out of your hand or whatever. And that's just baffling that people are that way. I don't know if that's like a mental condition we have in 2020 and
It's called
2021, but
retardation.
no shit, dude. That's wild. But
It's ridiculous.
too, being like a maintenance guy like that and him presenting as the owner kind of leads me to believe that he's upset with the position that he's in and he wants to be seen as an enforcer. Like I am the owner.
I'll be climbing the steps to Peterson Popham. I'll be on top of Broadway management in no
This is
time.
gonna get me there. That's where it kind of seems to me, man. Because I deal with a lot of that, and a lot of the presidents of a property that we work at, and it's always a lady that just wants you to know that she's in charge and she's gonna she's running this. And then you better, and more often than not, like what's it called? I secede, or
Concede.
yeah, I give that
concede.
power to them.
There we
Concede.
go.
Yeah.
And I give that power to them because I'm like, well, it doesn't bother me, but if something like that, like you're running up and then whatever, it just, I don't know. That's wild, man. But I didn't know I was going to create a mural on the music room of an Alex Gray painting that I really, really like. And I thought it might have been cheating. I don't know if it is still. It probably is. But I was going to take a projector, and I was like, well, I'll just put it on the projector, throw it on the wall, get my outline. Because I wanted it to look like Alex Gray's painting. And I was like, is that cheating? Because I'd still be painting and putting the shadows in, putting the veins and nerves and all that shit in the body. But the general outline would be from that original piece on my wall. And I don't know if
think
that's considered.
cheating. Mm-mm. It
Yeah.
gives you an idea of what you're supposed to be doing. You do it right here.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what you do with it once the projection is gone. It's
Oh,
like if you
yeah.
did a cover of a song and like you recorded your drums while you were listening to the song, that's cheating.
it's
but
not cheating.
if you throw shit on after, you're fine.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any at this stage in the game with the amount of technology we can use to embed ourselves quickly. There's no more cheating. There's no the vast majority of artists that have worked in the Museum of Modern Art, a craftsperson they hired did the art. Like Christo never cut up fabric and hung it in the park. Like he drew pictures and said, this is what's going to happen. And then an army of people worked for him, did it.
Right.
Shit.
He's delegating.
From my own
Yeah.
personal view on it, though, I do think I'm cheating myself if I am not completely competent in multiple steps on how to approach something. So I'm really glad I had a foundation in direct observation drawing. I can stand anywhere and draw what I'm looking at. I love knowing that I know how to do that. And through doing that, I understand the photo reference better because a lot of photos transfer into wonky stuff. There's just blurred areas. There's areas that you don't know what's behind them, and by not knowing what's behind them, you don't know why it has that silhouette. It's
Right.
being able to think three-dimensionally helps significantly. But I don't use projectors because they annoy me. Like it's good. Like I'm doing these, like half the stuff I do is in alleys. I don't want to be there at midnight with an expensive piece of equipment.
No shit.
Like
Yeah.
Right.
looking for a power source.
Yeah.
there's the people that drunk drive through them. There's just the streetwalkers. It's just,
Shit.
I would rather get there at 8 a.m. And I use the doodle grid method now. I used to just draw it. Now I can like overlay my outline with a photo of it and know where the lines are going to intersect with the bricks and the windows. And I just do it that way. And
That's
it
awesome.
goes, I'm
That's-
so used to doing it. It goes way quicker than a projector.
I was gonna ask you two questions. That's what
That's cool.
something else is. I draw on these like baggies, right? And I'll draw these pictures, but they're always from something that like I'll just look up random shit, right? And I don't trace them from anything, but I'll hold the phone out here and then I recreate them on a bag, right? And that way you can see through it. The color shines through. Blah blah blah. So I always felt like that was cheating. I'm not taking credit for the art which is on the bag. You know, when people see it, they know that I get it from online. But my thing was, without a projector, I don't understand how you can. I guess that's where the technical aspect comes in. Like how you can take the ratio from your piece of paper or whatever your reference is, and then project it mentally on a wall and still get the proportion right. I don't understand. That's a true talent, because you're going from I guess a sheet like this to a huge wall. Like that
Right.
proportion difference, that ratio difference is just amazing. Like I don't understand how you do that mentally.
Practice.
Well, and I had said it just before, and it's hard to explain, but when I say a doodle grid, we know what a traditional grid is, verticals and horizontals. And we know if we put verticals and horizontals here and we do it to scale on the wall, that say this line A and this number B intersect at this square. So we know that little square will be these lines that make up the face.
Gotcha.
Now, the lazy grid, or the doodle grid, as I call it, is just a simplified version of that, because you can make a bunch of squiggles on a wall or use the bricks that are around the wall. Take a photo, and then with Snapseed app, they have a double exposure option where you take your outline sketch, the sketch that's just the outline, and you double expose it on the photo of the house, and then you can enlarge and shorten it and see where it's going to fit. And then you just know that, okay, the eye intersects over here by where I made a squiggle mark. And that squiggle mark could be a plus sign or a spade or a G or a club or a diamond, like whatever nonsense you put on the wall. It could say, this isn't finished yet, but you'll know that the T in this is going to intersect with the eye or the nose line. And so that's how that's just what I do. And then I'll erase all with the can, like I'll spray over all the doodles, and then you just see the outline.
Yeah.
That's
And then it's just a matter of filling it in.
Yeah. That's how I asked a buddy, because I've seen a lot of people, a lot of artists, just on regular paper, do it on a grid, and I assumed that it was so that they could get the lines right, and the like the face is proportionate or the body proportionate. And I asked them that because they studied to be an architect. They were a very good artist, and I asked them, like, why are they drawing on the thing? Because I just wanted to know if my assumption was right. And he was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm like, I think this is right. So I'm glad that you're saying it, because I'm like, it made sense when I saw him
He was
doing it.
protecting his trade secret. Like,
Maybe, dude.
Yeah.
this is knowledge for artists only.
I was like, because it made sense to me. I'm like, definitely, that's how you do it. You know what I mean? And I actually now started putting like horizontal lines on grid paper and putting the baggie on grid paper. That way I could get the slant of a face right if I do a face on a bag, you know? So it made sense, but I just didn't know how you did that onto a wall, which is much bigger than a baggie, you know? So,
And whether you're using the doodle grid method or you're just using a projector, make sure it's straight. 'Cause sometimes if you take, like I've taken photos of my sketch before at an angle, and then all of a sudden like the chin's small and the forehead's big. I'm like, oh, I didn't take that photo right. Yeah.
This is my interpretation.
Of my own work.
I have the hardest time. When I was a kid, seemed like it was easier, but I have a hard time like thinking of ideals myself, rather than like I can look at something and recreate it. I'm good at that, even with their shading and shit like that, and I can make up my own shading after I have the outline. But it's much easier for me to like look at something rather than come up with it on my own. You know, it'll look terrible if I come up on my own, but like pictures of her I've drawn before and pictures of friends and just random shit, but it's always from a reference, like a picture or something on the internet, you know. So I don't know. Do you ever like create from that place?
Yeah,
just
that I put it into that when I try to start doing the portraits in spray paint because I wanted to just get that down first.
Yeah.
That's part of my dream journal next to my bed is to get back into the zone of original ideas. I had a good friend, and he's still a good friend. His name's Sean Griffin, and what he would do, he's an amazing artist. He lives in Oakland now, but he used to live here, and he would do a drawing, a really detailed drawing, and a lot of it wouldn't make sense because he wouldn't stop to find a photo reference, but it looked awesome. And then after that, he would go find, like, one time it was a seahorse, and the curl went the wrong way because it's hard to imagine in your head which way does the curl at the bottom go.
Yeah.
But once the first drawing looked great, but then once he found the correct reference, he just merged the two, like the imagination drawing with a photo reference, and it came out way
Wow.
doper than if he had just only went straight to finding a photo like it first.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
And I think that's a great way to merge the surreal of your imagination and whatever you're trying to express from within you into something that makes sense, that doesn't have a lot of wonkiness to it.
Yeah. So do you feel like every person, even like the most unintelligent person, do you think we all are born with that creative instinct? Like that's something like, you know, just something that we're born with. It's in our DNA to be creative. Or do you think that is the purest form of talent, is creativity? Like, do you believe that everybody has it, or only a select few people have it?
I don't think talent matters for much in the visual arts. Like, I don't think that. I think if anything, the people I've ever seen that it comes natural to, that usually like other things come more natural to them that you can actually make money at and are more easily right a little success. Like they become surgeons or they become writers. Like
yeah.
If you're operating at a high level with your abilities to do art, you usually won't choose that. But
that's crazy to me.
You
I
like
can
that,
see
Ian?
it though for sure.
Yeah.
man. Yeah, without a doubt. That's I read a study saying that most of your prodigies that are found out by 3 or 6 or whatever, and they're just fucking phenomenal. They're out of this world, you know, something from another universe, that most of them, more often than not, grow up and they don't do that. They do something else, like being a doctor, a lawyer, something that you can make money at, they're very talented at, because they learn quickly, that they don't actually continue their craft. They don't go nowhere with music or painting, whatever they're a genius at. They don't do, because it came so easy to them. They stopped trying at a certain point, and other people surpassed them that really had to work at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can definitely see how that plays into it.
But with the tools available to you now, like projectors and Procreate on iPad Pro, like with the things that you can get your hands on, you can be an artist. I mean, the long and short, I know people that are full on professional graphic designers that have never drawn with a pencil on paper before. And that's not slamming them. I'm amazed by it. That's really cool,
crazy.
you know? Like,
My God.
and so but there is a part of the imagination being able to make the most of fun things like crayons and paints and finger
Right.
paint that becomes unlearned through school, as we were mentioning earlier. Like you get, like I had to drop out of art school, going to U of L, because I was in these 3-hour long drawing classes, and I looked around and everybody's doing their English homework. You know, like they're cramming for their math. They're like, oh, I'll get 3 hours. I can get ace this math test next class.
That's crazy.
You know? And I'm like, well, that's not what we're here for.
Right.
But on top of that, by that point, I had already had gallery shows, and the guy next to me was like, "Dude, you got gallery shows." He's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was
Right.
like, "I guess I'm breaking my will to want to do art." That seems like what I'm doing here. Like they're teaching it out of me. Like it's so exhausting that like it's no longer something I want to do, and it was going in that direction. And I've seen so many people get their BFA or even their masters, and then they just don't do art
Yeah.
afterwards
What?
because they're like, oh, man, that was a drag.
They're burned
Yeah.
out of it. Yeah.
Or they're saddled with the kind of debt that is so soul crushing that it's hopeless
Yeah.
from there on.
Right.
And
Yeah,
It's
what
terrible.
if that is something that will truly end you as a human and turn you into a drone is debt, especially
get
school debt,
overwhelming.
student debt. I have a lot of friends that got into that debt and I don't know if they'll ever be out of it. It's baffling, which I only went 3.5, but the people who continued to go, it just seems like, and maybe they picked which is sad, but maybe they picked the wrong profession, or they got into the wrong thing that, doesn't make money, or it's hard to get into. And man, they're just drowning in that student debt, and they had to take out credit cards, so they got credit card debt. You can't move at that, but you can't be creative. You can't do,
All
personal.
you can think about is your debt at that point.
yeah, I think the knee-jerk reaction is to say, you're 17. You had the right mindset to say yes to that loan.
Right.
Why didn't you
Oh,
make the
yeah.
most of it and finish in 4 years like everybody else and go make the money and pay it
Ain't
back?
that a joke? Yeah.
It can
Well-
be. I think we do need to understand that people at 17 can make the right decisions and they can know what they want to do in life.
That's what
But not a
it's-
lot.
But if you don't, then don't do it.
Right, absolutely.
Oh yeah. Wait until you're competent enough to make that decision.
I
I want to
still-
know about your thought process going to school for art and stuff. Like, did you feel like there was stuff that they could teach you that you didn't know, or was it
At
like
the
did
time,
it feel
yes.
like education? Did it feel like a foundation?
Yes, at the time. Well, for one, I had known by this point that being amongst a team of artists will make you better at art. And then on top of that, having the access to the library. When I lived in Bloomington for a while as a bartender, I would go to the art library. There's books I wouldn't find anywhere else. There was no YouTube at the time. And since I hadn't seen anyone do the Patreon, YouTube, website things successfully, I thought, well, if I get a degree, a BFA, at least I can teach. I didn't want to teach at the time. At this time, I understand it's almost obligation of anyone in any trade to pass on their knowledge
yeah.
to the next generation and to not leave the world that leave behind without competent people. Like it's a civic duty to just understand that you want this to keep going, and it won't if you don't share it with anyone younger than you.
Right.
All right, so now with like the technology and stuff and the ability to spread your stuff, do you see a cause or like a purpose for anybody to actually go to school for art now, or does it kind of seem silly?
It's so abundant that that's its own problem.
Yeah.
You don't know how to
Okay.
you don't
Yeah.
know how to do just a watercolor.
Yeah.
Because on Procreate you have 20 brushes and you can mix it with water effect and you can mix it with this filter and like I can get the fine point, you don't understand why those tools exist on there because you haven't ever known that oil painting is limited, gesso is limited, all these things you work within those limitations, and that's what makes you a master of them.
Yeah.
But when you can use all of them all at once, then you just have people churning out
Dude. Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
It's I feel like with the things that we do, growing up, I was into a lot. So by this point, I can do a lot, but I'm a master of nothing except for electric at this point, on
Quite
paper at least.
literally a master.
Yeah. And that's the only thing, right? So that goes back to doing the one thing and really learning that craft personally, right? I feel like it's all the options that we have nowadays that hinder us from picking one thing and doing that, because it's easier to do multiple things and have all these things going that we can't decide on one thing to do, because during the day I want to do something artistic or make a video or play drums or play guitar or play, it's like I wish that I was only good at one thing. That way I could have focused. Whereas now I feel like I have all these like half-ass things that I do, and it's like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wish that focus was generalized to one thing, even if that one thing had multiple parts to it, I guess.
But
But
you could just mash it all into one.
Right.
It's like a chef. Like, oh, I wish I was just a pastry chef instead of being good at everything.
Well, yeah, I reconcile it by just being a fan. Like I'm a fan of all the maker videos. I love watching Jimmy DeRista do his stuff. I love. There's a lot of YouTubers that just make and refinish furniture. I'm like, I get what I want out of doing it by watching them. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't have the space or the time to do it, but man, it informs when I'm shopping or at a flea market. I know what's cool and what's of quality versus like what was made to be thrown away.
Hell yeah, dude. And there's studies that show when we watch something like that we know we can do, because you can do it, you have before, that we get that same mental satisfaction up here as if we did it ourselves. So in you doing that and being a friend of mine couldn't play but loved like hair bands, loved all kind of music, and he was like, I'm a music appreciator. I love working on cars and shit like that. He loved being a mechanic, but he was like, I am an appreciator of that. And I didn't learn how to be an appreciator. I always felt like if, I appreciate it, you better fucking learn it, or, what are you doing with life? Kind of, you know what I mean?
I'm so glad there's like a purpose for appreciators, because I can't do anything. I mean, I can like do stuff, I guess, but I don't enjoy doing it. Most things I don't like doing at all. I like making my resin and I like making jewelry, but only sometimes. I don't enjoy it all the time, so I don't do it all the time. And I can appreciate all kinds of stuff. I love music, I love art, I love everything, but I just don't want to do any of it.
But you're like,
you
like viewing it, but you don't like doing it.
I just always thought there's something wrong with me. Of course, I'm also 35, and I still don't know. If we didn't have our company, I don't know what I would be doing with life. I mean, I guess I'd be a substance abuse counselor, but...
Yeah, you'd still be waking up too early.
Yeah, I'd be pissed off.
Pissed off
Do
all
I
the time.
really want to do that? No. I'm okay with doing, like, everything, but I don't really want to do
Focus on
anything.
Yo, so check, this is something that it was odd for me to, with her, right? And the difference between me and her on things like that she was interested in and that I'm interested in. I think you have to be willing to be fucking trash it. So if you really want to do it and you think you might love it, art or music or videos or whatever, you have to love that thing so much that you actually love being trash at it in the beginning to learn.
Yeah.
And now it's easier to get over that trash hump, right? Back in the day, it was not easy.
hump.
You really had to go through that process and love being terrible at it, because you had to do that to get to a point where you could show off. Like, I am talented in this, but I've worked hard to get here. So she
I hate it.
fucking if she can't do it
Don't-
immediately,
I'm
she
not
hates
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. But if
I cook, I can cook. I can just do that naturally. That's about it. I drums, they're too loud. I was too embarrassed as a kid to play them loud and beat crap at them to get good at them. They were clarinet. I did. I could play the clarinet, but I mean, I don't really play it now. I have one. Occasionally, I play it. I enjoy it when I do, but I just don't.
It's a weird party trick.
Yeah. Right.
Got the clarinet, y'all.
Hell yeah.
Get around the campfire. Come on.
Let me pull this clarinet out real quick and
Yeah.
play you something.
Well, and I don't
Kenny
have
G.
that like creativity part. Like I can't like make my own music. I always liked the idea of getting it out and playing with him, even if it was weird to play a clarinet with drums or whatever. But I just can't. I can't do it. If it's not already written out on how you play something, I can't do it. I can't make my own stuff. Or I shouldn't say I can't. I've never been successful at doing it thus far. Maybe if someone told me how to do it, I could figure it out.
So do you have any, I don't know.
I think what we're talking about here is something I call the suck ratio. And it's the ratio to
My
where,
suck
like,
is 100%.
Yeah?
I am no good.
so that's something you're saddled with at the beginning of everything. Everybody
Right.
starts at the beginning. What the way I've dealt with it before, since I have to be public with a lot of things I produce, is, for instance, I don't have any but 1 or 2 pictures available of the stuff I practice on my practice wall in my backyard, because I look back at that stuff, at least for the first 10, and I'm like, yeah, that qualifies as suck. And I've really, and then some of the stuff that I would do with my friends where they really knew how to use a spray can, and I would do a face next to it, and I'm like, my face looks like it got punched. Like it looks the whole time, but they're like, yeah, go for it. You know, like they totally like were. It was okay enough, but
Yeah.
like what I'm able to do now compared to at the beginning, especially there was a real steep learning curve on going to
Guarantee it.
spray cans from using paint.
Oh, I guarantee
It
it.
was
It'd be crazy.
and just knowing like they all knew that if you cover well, if you don't leave blotches, if you actually do a good coat of paint, it looks better.
Right.
But with painting, that slapdash unfinished look is something I'd always gone for. It didn't. If it looked like it was missing part, it just you see the canvas and it looked cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
Don't
That doesn't translate to the. It just
Dude,
looks
that's right, yeah.
scraggly and unfinished.
Yeah.
There was a few people I know that can do it pretty well, but it doesn't look good, and so
That is very it's beneficial to have those people that I had an uncle one time who was like, I can't sing for shit, but he was like, dude, but like sing it and sing it loud, don't give a shit about nothing, just do it, like quit being whatever insecure about it and just do it, you're fine. And then other people with like art, and luckily like I've painted before and drawn before, and I was like, I'm getting into tattoos, and I did that for a while. Thank God there were people out there that were like, you can be trash on me, man. Like, just throw it on there and make it look good. Thank God for those people.
I've done a few of those in my past.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, thank God for those people, man.
I was like 16. A friend had traded a bag of speed for a machine and like brought it back from Texas.
yeah.
I didn't even know till like 20 years later that there's a throttle control. Like you can adjust this. Like I just went full
You went
fucking
through it.
jackhammer on you. Like chaos arrows, gotcha, bro. It'll look chaos.
I built one. Two of my first ones were my mom and dad. God love them, dude. And I hooked all these. It was a prison tattoo gun, man. I hooked all these.
That was a country song. Prison tattoos on mom and dad.
And they won't get them
That's
fixed.
awesome.
I beg.
They
my
won't
dad.
get them fixed.
dude.
That's the end of the song. They won't get them fixed.
I
love
fucking
it.
begged them, dude. Especially after I got the machines and like knew how to do it. I'm like, they look so. I have to
You
look
have
at
the
them all
coolest
time.
mom and dad I've ever heard of.
I
in my
ripped her
life.
fucking ankle apart. My mom.
My mom's pretty heavily tattooed. She's an old
really?
biker chick, so she's got like a Harley
that's fucking
Davidson
dope,
#1.
dude.
She's got a naked fairy bent over branch on this side, like
Yeah.
like and
What year was she born?
she's like 62, 63 right now.
Okay.
So she was like a prime hippie chick in the 70s.
Yeah, like a
right?
trailblazer when tattoos weren't accepted. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Actually, my whole family on that side were very heavily tattooed. So
Yeah.
it's I love hearing stories about tattoos.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I begged them to get rid of them.
I feel like they're proud of him. I mean,
Hell yeah.
they're very much proud. I mean, he made the gun itself, even like that's crazy. To
Well, I mean, you still got your you haven't got that fixed. That looks cool.
Oh,
Like,
I have so many on me that I got bored. I got a flower on my foot, and I got a skull and shit here. None of them are finished, and some of them
Hey,
look
the
stupid.
flower is finished. The flower is finished, but he
Oh, yeah, it
tattooed
is.
on his hips. Like he was upside down, of course, but tattooing it upright. He was looking in a mirror, tattooing it on
Yeah.
himself. Like that's
Because
amazing.
I couldn't find people to practice on, and it doesn't look good.
I mean, 9 out of 10 brick and mortar tattoo shops are competent enough at this point. You don't even have to do much research. You just can go to one and they'll fix that for you.
Yeah, I know. I gotta.
You should just
I've
finish
been
it
talking about
yourself.
it for years, and I'm like, the only ones I can't fix are the ones on my back, to finish. But I swear, man, that's what they're all undone. Even the ones on my hands, like they're ripped to pieces because they were made out of like hair clippers. Some were made out of CD player motors, shit like that.
Yeah.
And they
Bend the sporks on the fork and get the big pin, put the bass
Fucking-
string, sharpen it.
That's
Yeah.
it, man. That's the winner right there. The actual the haircut ones actually would hold a real tube, and it would hold a real needle. So then I got a little bit better then, but once I got a machine, it got 10 times better. But
Yeah.
thank God for those people that were allowing me to be trash and knowing that they're going to have it on them forever.
In certain places, that is currently and for the last 3 years, one of the coolest styles is like really bad stick and pokes. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
yeah, that's like a whole movement of it out there.
I've seen video. I thought that was strange
Yeah.
that I saw videos of pick poke. I was like, that's a That's a for sure prison.
The
thing.
underlying philosophy, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, is that there was such an old boys network of people who say that they are the real thing.
Yeah.
That women, people of color, people who just wouldn't normally feel comfortable walking straight up into an all white boys tattoo shop were like, we're scratchers and we're going to do it this way.
Yeah,
Right.
man.
This is what we have on hand, and we don't want your company or your opinions about
Shit.
tattooing.
That's
Fuck
wicked.
Yeah,
That's
And
awesome.
that's
to
like a
say.
huge movement
Yeah.
of people doing that.
That is fucking wicked. I like that. That they were just like, we're doing it this way. And I'm telling you, there's people in prison that were like pickpoke people.
Yeah.
And my God, some of the, I mean, talk about like shading with pickpoke is just ridiculous to me to hear, because like, how's that possible? Oh, sorry. How's that
Yeah.
possible? And these people did, I mean, there's some in prison, like, they don't deserve.
If you
there's
understand that you have all the time in the world, you
Yeah.
will take time to do it right.
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
portraits and landscapes drawn with a pen, but they have so much time that they're shading with a pen is just, it's like, it looks so ridiculous. I'm like, how do you do this? But it's all that time.
I have some stuff that you've sent me that was shaded with pen, and it's beautiful. I can't draw a flower that I've been trying to draw for 30 years, but he can shade this beautiful scene with pen. It never made sense to me as to how you're so talented.
Well, the thing that upsets me is that going through prison and knowing that, I was going to try my hardest to stay out, just the amount of talent that these gentlemen have. Like, I say that they're nice guys in prison, and they're so talented.
If you remove
Yeah.
the cycle of instability from a lot of people, you
Yeah.
will understand that they're not trying to be like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I don't know if this relates to you or anything, but I've always felt that, especially artistic people, spoken word people, poets, people who are creative have that in them to be depressed, or have it in them to be
Explore their dark
not
side.
mentally unwell, but yeah, they have a part of their body that, or their brain, that can play with their dark side, because we all have it, but they're really in tune with it. So a lot of those people kind of cover up some of those issues with drugs or something, and then that's a downward, spiral until they get locked up. And the instability of their life or their family they were raised in. But I mean, you just look at some of them, you're like, man, if you had more opportunity and mental health and all this
Different
stuff,
environment.
oh my God, like, you would be out of this world famous.
Yeah.
Guitar players in there, singers, like, it was just, if prisons are full of, rappers and people that just were killing it. I'm like, how are you here? Like, why?
Yeah,
I don't
they're
understand
full
it.
of talent.
But I think that plays into it, that we, creative people can get in tune with that side.
There's a meditation to sensory deprivation too. I mean, there's something that happens when everything around you is white and uniform, that every single note and everything is you're heightened your senses. I mean, I've only have spent jail a few times overnight for like drunken or fighting and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But like I always come out and all the colors are vibrant, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess part of the
Dude,
reason I
yeah.
got fucking arm tattoos is like, next time I get arrested, I'm gonna have something to fucking look at.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no beauty in
up
there,
to
yeah.
that point, I was like, I don't want identifiable marks. And then like somebody showed me a picture. I'm like this tall, goofy thing that you can't not be seen in a crowd. I'm like, well, so much for the identifiable part.
I didn't know
Nice,
you
like
were
it's a
that tall.
fucking
man. When you come to the door, I'm like, gee, oh fuck, man. He's tall like that too. I'm always looking up. I'm like, son of a bitch. But that's funny though. You say that. I'm telling you, one of the most amazing feelings that you'll ever feel. There we go. Is being locked up and then being let out and seeing the world from a different angle. Because in
It's
there,
like those films that are like black and white, and all of a sudden color comes into
Yeah,
the.
man.
It's just- yeah.
you can feel the color at that point. You
Yeah.
can feel and taste.
It's got
the
to be
color.
like a whole lot more if you've actually done time though. I can't even like. I'm just lucky I got out after 24 hours both times.
No shit. That's I've always explained it to her, and when I got in the car with her when I was leaving and stuff, it was just there's a feeling you get, and it's like this
Sorry.
world is so
Yeah.
like beautiful, but I didn't see it before. I took it for granted or what have you. Getting out of that, like I take myself back to that feeling sometimes when I'm looking for inspiration, and man, it's hard to explain. There's not a feeling in the world. I don't say like go to prison so you can find out, but maybe you need to go.
Yeah,
if
there's
you're-
only one way to get it.
There's other forms of meditations. I mean, some people go on like
Oh,
Buddhist
yeah.
Buddhist retreats. Some people will
Right.
like you can. I mean, if you went into an empty room with 4 white walls and sat there by yourself for 24 hours,
Yeah.
you would have a good feeling. of
Hell
what
yeah.
it feels like.
Yeah. Keep the maybe keep the light on or the light off, whatever. But yeah, really get yourself in a zone. And I don't know why I always forget about meditation. It's always something that fucking
That's good.
it
I don't know, it's
it's
so funny to
fleeting,
me.
man.
All you have to do is just not stimulate yourself all the time.
I know I need to get away from caffeine, and that's what the doctor was like. I think you got ADHD, man. You
Yeah.
might want to go and like
Yeah.
maybe get checked or work on meditation, all this shit. And I'm like, maybe, but like I have all these other things I needed to do and
Right.
shit. But yeah, meditation, dude. If I could learn transcendental meditation, I would I'd love it. I'd be a happy man.
When you go float, what do you do?
I can
Have
get
you
in the
ever
zone in there. Have
Done
you ever
sensory
floated?
deprivation floating?
No, but I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
Mm.
Oh, I'm-
Yeah, you try it one time. Are you interested in that kind of?
I don't. At this point in the game, my mind doesn't race uncontrollably like it has
Oh.
at points in the past. Like I'm pretty centered. Like one of the things I do it's similar to counting sheep, but at night I often will count backwards from a 100, and then I'll see the numbers and I'll imagine them as a different pattern or an object.
Yeah.
And so usually that settles my mind to where I can go to sleep easily. We used to do martial arts a lot, and we do breathing exercises where you just lay on the ground and like imagine our toes breathing in the air and try to like release all tension from your body. Like, and so
Yeah, man.
like I've done experiments, but that I don't really I see a counselor. I don't really go out of my way anymore for those things.
Did that get better as you got older? Was it harder for you when you were younger, and then as you got older, you kind of learned those methods? And
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things will stop being mind chaos if you learn to make lists or if you write down your ideas
Yeah.
at the end of the night. Something about
do
it
that,
being able
yeah.
to write something down makes it not stir constantly in your head.
yeah.
And you have the luxury with a journal, especially if you live with trusted people, that it's not going to be read. So you can
Shit.
share any darkness, anything that you want to go
Yeah.
into. I mean, imagine if they raided Stephen King's house.
oh no,
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? Like,
oh no,
like this is somebody that's given himself the permission to go in every dark recess of the mind.
Right.
And so you can't, fortunately, still at this point, we're guilty by things we've done, not by the things we imagine.
Right.
yeah, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
That's because it seems like when I vocalize the darkness or whatever, I vocalize that side of myself to people who are unwilling to understand or accept. The judgment is real, man. Like the doctor, is
Or
like,
they laugh and they're along for the ride, and then you're even more worried.
yeah, they're like worse off
We
than I
need
am.
to see somebody.
Yeah, dude. I've had, I think, I sent a text to a buddy and, I was saying something and I didn't think it was abnormal, but he was like, man, don't kill yourself or anything. And I'm like, I was
Yeah.
like, maybe I need to check what I'm writing because this
You're
is
like, this is me every day.
Yeah.
yeah, bro.
Well, and he talks to me, of course, and I don't have those like dramatic reactions. I mean, that's what you're thinking and feeling, and that's, normal. That's okay. You just have to find a way to deal with the shit. So my
Yeah, to cope with
responses
it.
are not, oh my God, don't kill yourself. It's just, okay.
I've always felt though
How's
that,
that different from last month?
Right, right.
I've always felt that most creative people, they deal with a certain amount of that. Like
Yeah.
most of your big name artists and which none of them are coming. I want to say Van Gogh, even though you hate him. Like Van Gogh shit. People that were truly like dedicated to the arts and they were very creative usually have they're in tune with that dark side. They can really be friends with that dark side and let it play. Where other people shut it down, they can let it play. So I think that helps probably the creative process. I hope, or maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel better.
Well, if you've ever met someone that doesn't or hasn't or it hits them later, then you really realize how stilled to the persuasion you have become from that nonsense because you let it into your life. Because some people will go blindly through life not knowing that tragedy awaits them, and it does. It awaits all of us.
Yeah,
And
man.
so
That's beautifully put.
if you haven't ever romanced the black grief and then it hits you, you will be done with life.
Yeah, just
Damn,
devastated.
man. That is a beautiful way to put
Like a
it.
dog getting hit by a bus.
Yeah. No shit.
It's a
Oh, this is
I've seen that
playing in
happen.
treats.
That's a terrible sound. Like
Yeah.
dogs, animals when they die and that cry.
Yes.
Huh?
It's horrible.
It's an awful, awful sound. I saw someone run over a cat once, and I can still see it
It's that
vividly.
pop sound of the head, yeah.
It's fucking awful. It is a horrible sound. I hate it. I can see it vividly to this day. It's been probably 15 years, and I can still see it. Forever. Plus, I love cats a little too much, so that was very traumatic for me. But it's frightening.
Hey, that's
This took a really dark turn.
I
No,
know,
yeah,
absolutely.
the way you put it though, I absolutely love it because that's why I told her. I had a friend die in my lap. I think it was I always forget. I was 21, yeah, and he was turning 21 at the time, and like that, like I've seen death and I've held death and been around it, and my ex-wife died, ex-girlfriends died, fucking, you know. And I told her, I was like, a lot of people go through life and they're comfortable distracting themselves. They're comfortable not ever going to that region. And then when it happens, you see them, break completely. Right. And it's like they even have like a crisis of character and shit, man. And that's why I told her I play with that every day. Like I look into that. I put myself in those moments so that I can be comfortable when it does happen.
He was getting serious over here.
Oh no, it's pretty much every time I've gotten serious. There's a burp coming. I know it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, of
Break
all the
the tension.
podcasts I watched preparing for this, Ian keeping it lighthearted is
Yeah.
it's been the balance, you know,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's nice. I do agree with you though, and I think distractions are okay though. You shouldn't ever fault somebody that wants to live in delusion.
Yeah.
You know, like that's their
I
coping
wouldn't say
mechanism.
never.
Well, there
Maybe
are
go
points.
easy on them, but you know.
There's definitely like when you look over and the kids are all still just playing Pokemon at the uncle
Oh, yeah.
funeral. Yeah, you're just, come on,
At the
man.
uncle's
Right.
feet, yeah.
Put the tablet down.
Enjoy this moment, kid.
We're talking
Yeah.
about his lifelong alcoholism and how it ended up accomplishing nothing, and now he's in a casket.
Yeah,
And we all had to pass around a hat for that fucking casket. You know?
Yeah.
He had his first beer while he was playing Pokemon.
Damn it. Didn't even enjoy it.
Let's
Say
put a
Pokemon.
remote control next to his. Yeah.
It's wild. But people will go to any length to distract themselves. People will buy into anything to distract themselves from that inevitability.
What made me a believer in the power of resilience of distraction is I worked with a guy. I won't. He probably won't hear this. His name was Sasha, but he had grown up in war-torn Sarajevo as basically a child huddled in the sewers with other child huddled in
Okay.
sewers that had no parents that couldn't go out in daytime because of sniper fire.
Yeah.
And what his takeaway, like he was like, we didn't have radio communication, we didn't have anything, no electricity, but some people had copies of People magazine, some people had copies of any magazine, and he said those were gold because you could know that the world still existed.
Right.
And you could know that people still smiled, you know, like
Yeah.
Hell
it was
yeah.
proof that something was true besides constant misery.
Damn.
And like it's allowed me to always overindulge in my magazine obsession. I still I still will pay ridiculous amounts because they're so much more expensive than they used to be. But it also is like, and he said he had gone back years later after he was an adult and realized that it was only a mile or two from where he was at. The people were still living normal lives.
That's
the people
crazy.
that weren't in the middle of the front line.
What
Like,
the fuck?
Like they were able to just just like people that live right outside of where we lock people up in camps and dog cages in the middle of the desert just because they come here to try to help and work.
Yep.
Like there's not anything you can do sometimes. And
Yeah, it's baffling though. There's a lot of corrupt countries that the central area of the country or the city that they're in is, I mean, it's built up. They have these office, but I mean, it looks beautiful. And then right outside of that, it's a third world country where they're just surviving, like every day waking up to survive. And it's like, how?
And they
how
get deeply
odd.
offended when you point it out to them because they're like, well, you didn't grow up like that. That's not how it is. It's like,
Yeah.
well, that's not what you're looking at.
Yeah.
But we do the same thing here. There's a lot of things we turn our eyes away from.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt. We have a city, and outside of that city is Portland, where I grew up. That's, now you look back and it's like, good night. Like it just got worse and worse. But we do look away from it, and I think that's we spend time with the homeless, and a lot of people won't. For one, they're scared, but for two, they don't want to see people in pain. They don't want to see people in that raw form where they're hurting, or they're in, they want to see their life where they got the house and they're okay and their kids are okay and shit like that. They don't want to know it's a possibility that we could all be there if
I think we're all in the current situation and how we've been coerced to be living in debt. There's very few people you'll meet that aren't one or two paychecks again away from just being done under for quite a while.
Right.
Man, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they've done studies on that, and it is, I mean, very close to it, paycheck to paycheck, if not worse than that, and that's what I'd say. I have friends that are in debt that way, and it's like, you got to quit pretending, man, and you got to, be a part of this life and see that, because we're
be
all
a part of the
close.
solution, because continuing to ignore it doesn't fix anything.
Don't get 4 jobs. Just
Right.
Right.
spend some free time having fun if you're in that situation. You
Yeah.
still
Yeah,
have friends.
fuck it,
like,
right?
Yeah.
That's why I always.
It's not going to
I've
get
never-
fixed overnight,
Yeah.
no matter what you do. Unless you just come into a bunch
you
of
win the
money.
lottery,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not going to be fixed overnight.
Well, none of us had as a core curriculum in any high school in this region
Right.
financial competency as part of. Like, I learned how to balance my checkbook from my dad.
Right.
Like, I learned to
Yep.
meet people that don't even know they need to look to see what their balance is before they go shopping. You
Right.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Definitely.
Say
It's,
yes to every credit card that comes through there. When you get all, at 19, you get mails and tons of mail for credit cards, Capital One, and they don't play.
No.
You mess around with
No,
that,
they
and they
don't.
Hell
will
yeah.
garnish your wages and siphon your checks, and everything you have stored will
I was
be
always
gone.
so grateful. I had credit cards, and I was a drug addict, and I would overdraw my account, and it would just charge my credit card. So I basically had unlimited money. I mean,
At the
for
time,
at the
yeah.
time for what I needed. I mean, I had I think a $10,000 limit on one, and then like 5,000 on another. I should not have had that big of a limit, but they gave it to me.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
of course, at the end of it, they were all maxed out, and I guess they let me just claim it on my taxes. I don't know why, but I never had to
pay
pay
the
it back. I
taxes
had to
on
pay
all
the
the money.
taxes on it, and that was it. And it's done and over with. I've always been so grateful for that. I don't know why it happened.
Probably.
It seems like a clerical error to me.
Seriously,
It's a good
it
one.
might have been.
It's a beneficial one. But
Yep,
Yeah,
it's a
dude.
wonderful error. I'm
They don't
grateful
teach
for
that.
it.
And I see like her dad is super good at get a bill, pay it, real headstrong on that. And I come from a family that was financially poor, and
Robbing
paycheck
Peter
less
to pay
than
Paul.
less than paycheck to paycheck and shit. And I'm like, just my mindset compared to hers when we first got it, I'm like, I am ridiculous. Like, why would I, forego this bill to pay this one when that one's still going to be
Well,
due?
and
I'm like,
especially we had the money, so why would I not just pay all of them?
see, but that's
Yeah.
how deep that mental mind state goes, because I had the money to pay it, but I'm like, but we could just like move this money around and pay different people and make it harder on ourselves. But
Yeah.
that's it's what we're taught when we're young.
We got to a point where I stopped even talking to him about like
Oh,
I
yeah.
would say, hey, I'm going to pay this bill, and I stopped because we'd get into an argument over every time.
Every time.
It would just cause anxiety.
There's
within
a
them
bit of that
didn't
when I
need
first
to.
married my wife. But my thing was I would always pay it like a week early,
Yeah.
and she would always pay it a week late.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, why do you want to risk getting
Yeah.
this stuff turned off? Like,
Yes.
why are you even putting it off like that? So we sort of met in the middle, and it gets paid on time. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you have to. But I'm very lucky for that, because when we both met, we were kind of in a weird spot. But luckily
little
when we
weird.
cleared up, she was really good at finances. I'm like, and after she said that, I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, good, because you're triggering this thing in my head that like I have to argue about it. My parents argue about it.
Right.
I have to argue about it. And we have to rob Peter to pay Paul. Like, that's how the world works. But, you know.
Peter.
I know, right?
And Paul.
And Paul.
Well,
Yeah. What? You like Paul?
I'm all right with him.
Yeah.
But no, that's it's how the world works. But I'm glad that you have been able to make a living from creative art, and it's beautiful, man. Because it's not, I wouldn't expect that in 2021 and 2022, or 2020 for that matter. Because you did it right when the pandemic started. You started, so it's baffling that you made that happen.
It was a good, like, I think I probably waited longer than I should, but I stayed with my day job at Habitat Restore, unloading trucks, polishing up furniture, putting price tag, moving couches around. I stayed doing that till August of last year.
Yeah.
And I mainly stayed because I really like doing that. I like
Right.
old furniture and stuff.
Shit, yeah.
But I had to write things down and keep an understandable balance of how money operates over the course of a quarter of a year and as a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is what a lot of people that are used to paycheck living don't understand, is that you're going to have, like, January's almost always going to be slow for everything.
Yeah.
And the people get tight with their money. But then a lot of people will make a purchase with their tax returns.
Yeah.
Even though I don't get them anymore because I'm my own business,
Yeah.
they will make a purchase and loosen up their purse strings come the end of February.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and then that goes into warmer weather where a lot of people are willing to spend money. So
Yeah, definitely.
and then I have several art fairs I do. One mainly is the Unfair, which is a shirt I drew for it.
Oh, you did the art for it.
Yeah, I did the
Oh, at
art for the
Mag Bar.
shirt. Yeah,
Check that out.
so it's in the backyard of a Mag Bar, and I do really well at that. So over the year, I'm making work that's going to be sold specifically for that. Going into next month, I hope to have a website established where I can sell items, because a lot of my fans are now out of the region, can't
yeah.
show up to
Yep.
get things. And then I have about 5 projects of murals I'm designing right now that will go into effect as soon as I'm cleared by my doctor to be on ladders again, which
Yeah.
should be like late February. And just having always, like I said, 20 projects going, this event coming up, multiple pots on the fire, diversify your income.
Right.
All these things add up to when something falls through that I was counting on, I've got this as a backup.
Back you up. Yeah.
Definitely.
I probably still have a hard time with that, but that's amazing. I was wondering if you were in the process of, or even thinking about a website, because we looked for like merch or something. I'm sure that you may have stickers and
The stickers
shirts.
right now, and then I hope that's part of my New Year's resolution is to design more shirts and have shirts available. Shirts are hard
Awesome.
because if you're not constantly re-upping them, you'll just end up with the sizes that nobody wears. You'll end up with
Right.
a 3X and the X small.
Yeah.
So we've always thought about it, but you can actually now.
And it's got to be a dope design, or else,
Oh
Right.
yeah.
like, people won't wear things that suck. Like,
Yeah.
they just
Absolutely not.
No, that's but they'll have websites now. You can link them in there, and you create the design, send it to them, and then every time somebody orders, that company gets their cut, and then they send you your cut. That way, you never have to hold product or T-shirts that nobody's gonna wear, which I thought was always cool to link, but maybe they take too much of a percentage. Like
I've printed T-shirts for years. It's I've over 8 years experience working at high output T-shirt factories.
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
screen printing.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah, man.
there's plenty of places locally you can, and unless it's like more than a 3-color design, they'll get it right.
Yeah. We've employed a local girl that which she does on the side, but just for like the company T-shirts and stuff. We try to pick people, but screen printing, man, like I still don't understand it. I hooked up a few machines for Phoenix Printing or something.
Yeah, I worked there before.
No shit. Yeah, dude. I fucking loved watching them make, because they have those huge machines where it turns and they do it.
Yeah.
One at a time. And I was like,
The blue MIR machine.
Yeah. I don't understand how it all works. Like the screen, and then it's like overlaid, and I get it kind of, but I'm like, how does it end up like that?
On our end, we don't understand all the electrical. We understand what each switch does, but we don't know where that line goes and
Where
how it
it's
relates
going,
to the
yeah.
computer panel. Like,
That's with everything. We're all stupid at something. Like
Yeah.
I'm dumb to that. Like I was like blown away when I was hooking up. I was like, don't understand how this works out. And then it looked so good at the end. I'm like, you can't even tell that they use 3 different
Right.
colors or whatever. But that's amazing, man. It's funny that you worked there. That was great. They had a group of great guys.
if
that printed.
if they didn't have such a long wait, I would recommend anybody go there. But they don't ever have to advertise because they do such a good job that it's just like they're always backed up.
Yeah, it seemed like the 2 guys there that were there when I was working.
Yeah, Shane and Jared.
Yeah, Shane is the one I remember. That's the one where I got my tool stolen off of, and they got
Welcome to Louisville.
Dude,
Yeah.
I swear, that's
Damn, that wasn't even that long ago.
no.
I painted the front of it. There's a big phoenix bird on the street facing
Get
side.
the fuck out
Yeah.
of here! See, I didn't even know that. That's wild, man. Yeah, that's.
job.
I'm telling you, you could. That's when I learned that you had to like lock everything up and whatever. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was wild.
And with the
how
camera
quick.
things, like when people come to film me, I'm like, dude, just stay with your camera.
Yeah.
Hang on for
Like-
dear life.
Like, just look around, see anybody coming up. Like,
Yeah.
It's a bunch
this
of
is like a
crackheads
gold
walking
mine for
around.
anybody walking around here.
Hell yeah.
Luckily, I
keep my paint in the van. Like, I
Oh,
keep
even the
only the
paint,
colors
yeah.
that I'm using. I keep them on me
yeah.
and on the ladder, and anything else that's down off the ladder is in the van. Like,
It sucks that there's so many. There are like
Yeah.
bad people out there, but it's like those areas aren't indefinitely bad. They're just bad people like that are there and will
I
take
think
your
it's
shit.
a lot of it's just bored. Like,
Yeah.
you walk in the streets all day long. Like, you're like,
That looks cool.
what's
That looks
that?
cool. Hell yeah.
I go knock on some doors. Somebody wants to give me money for this.
Shit, yeah, dude. That's I'm glad that I was raised in Portland because when we go downtown for like the homeless in the camps, that is so it's not as uncomfortable as if I was raised out in like the East End or something. It feels better to be there. Or when we shot in like Portland, I'm
Yeah.
used to Portland. Like that doesn't bother me. But for a lot of people, I mean, the way they talk, it's like a war zone or some shit. You know, they're so scared to
It
Well,
can
and
it
my
can make
gut-
a big huge difference who's on the left and right of your house in Portland.
Yeah.
yeah,
Really,
yeah, dude, for sure.
There's just so many shootings all the time. It frightens me. I'm not necessarily uncomfortable when I go down there because I've spent time down there, but people are just dying constantly. I mean, I guess people are dying everywhere, but it seems like every single day there's multiple shootings down there. And you never
Would
know
you
where it's
say
going to
that
be.
comes from boredom as well?
Probably.
I think this whole nation is infected with gun madness
Yes,
right now. Like
it's crazy.
it's become everyone's go-to solution for everything that doesn't need a gun to
Yeah,
solve the
let's
problem.
not talk about
Shit, I
anything.
know,
Let's not even fight about it. Let's just shoot each other.
Yeah, there's just such a like. And I've watched my friends who get a gun and then they have it with them all the time, and it just becomes like this. Like it's like they're precious. It's like they're like
Yeah,
rubbing it
man.
all
Yeah,
the
they
time.
can't
Like,
go
yeah,
anywhere
man, like,
without
we
it.
know you got
I
a
don't
gun,
even
dude.
need
Like,
words anymore.
yeah.
Look at this thing. That's I had a cousin that did that, man. And I was always like, does it make you feel like bigger and strong? 'Cause
Like
he-
it really
Yeah.
does. I mean,
It
like,
has to, right?
honestly, like if you, I had a roommate. He was a small dude. He had learned karate. He could hold his own, but no one pissed him off after he got a gun. He was just like, all right.
Yeah.
He was riding his bike around. He got a big mohawk at them. Frat boys be like, "Fuck it, faggot." He'd be like, "What's up, man?" Like, you know, like, he don't care.
yeah, dude. That's he would do that, dude. Right, he would have it on his motorcycle and shit. I'm like, just to go for a ride. I'm like, who are you gonna shoot during
Right.
your ride on your
Remember,
motorcycle?
we were at the movie theater. Someone had a gun at the movie theater. Like, really?
Yeah.
You're
Well,
gonna
the thing
kill
about it
someone during a
is,
Lego
when
movie?
you've done all the situationals in your mind where the gun solves everything,
Oh.
then anywhere you're at without it,
Right.
you don't have a solution.
Right.
You feel helpless.
Yeah.
So as
Oh, yeah.
empowering as it is when you have it, when you don't, you feel like an old grandma crossing the road. You know, like,
right.
I don't have a gun, but like to a degree, I can see it.
You
But it's
wish you
also
did.
like it kind of ties into the idea of like you take your wallet everywhere, like you just have your wallet with you, and it's like, well, you're not going to buy anything, but you have it with you. So I mean, if you're not going to shoot somebody,
Wow.
you can still have it because you never know when shit's going to pop off.
Ah.
You know.
I think a lot of people have their wallet with them because they have to qualify their citizenship to somebody that might want to deport them or,
Fuck, yeah.
question
Right.
their right to exist,
But
like,
if that's the case, then I mean, are we talking like, are they qualifying it to like authority figures or just like some Joe Schmo on the street?
it might just be
Both.
some Joe Schmo depending on where
Okay,
you're
well
at.
then in
Like,
that instance, shoot him in the leg and move on.
see, another gun solve
Problem
everything.
solved. That's,
I can't even be I can't even be pro gun restriction anymore because it would just target the people who probably need it the
That
most
need
at
it,
this point.
yeah.
Right.
Like
No shit, man.
it's such a conundrum. I don't have a gun. I don't want a gun. I'd insist to anybody that feels like the world doesn't terrify them to not carry one, but it is the world we live in.
double-edged sword on that
I
one,
just
man.
want one
That's
for New
fun, too.
Year's Eve.
you
Just
could
shoot
just
'em, yeah.
pop that shit
And then
off.
nobody on the block shoots anything, so I feel like I need to step up.
Out here in the country, man, these boys get wild. They'll take AKs out or AR-15s, man, and just unload into the sky. And I'm like, they're gonna come down. Like,
right.
you
They
know,
go
like,
somewhere.
unless
There-
you're using blanks, bro.
Look,
like,
there was a road rage incident outside of our house, like literally right there, and
Oh,
I
with
was
the
so
snow.
worried that there was going to be gunfire.
Yeah,
I
these
thought
boys
for
out here-
sure people are going to shoot, and
some of them are ignorant.
yeah,
a
like
little
what do
bit.
you do then? People get hit by stray bullets all the time.
Yeah, I never want to catch a stray for sure.
I'd be
It's very
pissed
rare that I
off.
get rage on the road, but if I do, I'll just pull into the driveway. I'm like, you go on, bud.
Yeah.
But
Go
then,
for it.
one of them's going to be like the guy that stops, like, oh, you stopping?
Yeah.
Oh God.
You want this too?
I just want you to have the run of the road, man.
You wanted it really bad.
Yeah.
No, that's we're in a weird place altogether, but that's one that I really wish that we could find a solution for it, or and then you get into these people that are like, well, if they try to come take them, we're just going to start a civil war. And I think that your government knows,
That's
especially in your
ridiculous.
like southern states and Bible Belt shit, very conservative states, forget about it.
I
man.
say get rid of them.
Well, they're maintained by people who profess those ideas, but that isn't the majority. I mean, it's been gerrymandered. Like,
yeah,
I lived
okay.
in Atlanta. I was a white minority. Dude. Like,
Yeah.
the majority of people I ran into weren't white.
No,
like they
yeah,
don't.
not in Atlanta.
They're not buying into this whole guns, God, and glory,
Yeah.
stars and bars. Like it's fed to us everywhere else that that's the way it is. But no, I mean, like nobody wants to be in. And when it comes to like Civil War, come on, man. Like, you know how expensive that is. You know how much
Right.
territory has to be maintained.
Yeah.
Like, you hate taxes, you're going to be taxed at 200% on everything you own, and all
Right.
your children sent to die.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Nobody's interested in that really happening.
No. Yeah.
But a general deterioration of faith in all things might happen, and you'll end up with a situation like South Africa where there's a chance that widespread ruin can happen at any moment because one side or the other decides to send their people to go loot and go crazy. But
yeah.
like, I don't see anything being gained for either side for any reason with
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
like an
yeah.
organized civil war.
Yeah, that's and I know you. I hate to go back to it, but Atlanta, you were talking about that. By the, I went down there for work one time, and I thought Kentucky or Nashville, we have like Southern comfort. One of the most comforting places to be was Atlanta. I walked into I went to an Applebee's or some shit, and 3 people at the bar bought me a drink just for being out of town for whatever. The bartender got me a drink, and it just baffled me how fucking nice they were. Atlanta was a nice city.
Atlanta's awesome.
It was crazy nice. It baffled. I thought we were like semi nice. No, we're assholes.
I
compared to
love all the southern cities, man. I love Chattanooga. I love New Orleans, man. Like,
New Orleans. Yeah,
I want to
Yeah.
go there.
really bad, dude. You ever been to Memphis?
I haven't. I need to go there.
Yeah, Bill Street was super nice. It was a great place to be. Nashville, of course, but Knoxville, Tennessee was really good. But yeah, Atlanta, it always blew me away. I've always wanted to take her down there just because of how nice they were. And I honestly, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but I didn't come into contact with maybe 1 or 2 white people, but that was about it. It's the majority African American, and I was like, they were super nice to somebody who was out of town and didn't know his way around and shit. I felt comfortable Whereas there's places in Louisville I don't feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Louisville's a whole. Louisville and Cincinnati, like it's tension. Yeah.
A lot of tension. And I get it, but yeah. But I just wanted to go back to that, and it's just wild. I'm glad that they don't buy into that. And there's a lot of places outside of Atlanta, like in Bankhead area, that little section that are kind of like a third world country compared to here, where they don't have bathrooms at work, shit's boarded up, and all these cities do the same exact thing. They push people into oppression, and it's a system. Like, I think, the guns is a problem, but I think there's an entire systemic problem in the capitalist society that has to be solved before anything gets solved. You can't do, I don't know.
What do you think, Ian?
Guns are symptoms
Symptoms of
a greater problem.
Oh, okay.
It's like, you can't just say, oh, guns will fix everything. Oh, getting rid of guns will fix everything.
Well, let's imagine that it is a tool like everyone that has a gun says it is. Let's imagine all the different tools that we can use badly.
Right.
Imagine if ramming our cars was our solution, and people did that as often as they use guns. Or let's imagine for a second we can make Google. I'm going on a tangent real quick.
Oh, go for it.
So
By all
you can
means.
Google Earth and you can get from here to there. Let's say that Google Earth has photographed and itemized all the particular mineral elements along a given location and can tell you what is the quickest way to make a quick and dirty bomb. Right. Because this is the pile of nitrate and this is the igniters and this is all within your county. That's the kind of technology we exist in right now, is all these things can be quantified and measured and analyzed by an AI and given the result to you immediately, as long as you have that program on that app on your phone.
Yeah.
So the future holds a much darker place for us than people having guns.
Yeah.
That's true.
But that's
So
where
what do
like
we
it
do?
goes to the idea of like guns are the symptom.
No, evil intent. The intent to solve your problems with murder. Yeah. Is
exactly.
the problem.
So until we can eradicate people's desire or need or whatever to murder people, then there's nothing we can do.
Well,
Yeah.
you can not murder people
Yeah,
like
that's a good
yourself.
idea.
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you
no, I
can-
mean that's
you-
I don't
you
murder
can-
people all the time, but whenever you go out into the world,
Most people that murder people didn't do it until they did, but
Right.
they fantasized about it endlessly. And that's why I think a lot of people with guns right now is they play out these scenarios and the situations where they're on top because they pulled the gun faster and they blast them with every round, and step back and, don't do that.
Right. Yeah, no shit.
Fucking
well, absolutely.
teach 'em how to
But then
breathe.
you just have an increase in sword murders.
Yeah, that's...
Because I mean, if I just feel like if you
It-
follow,
it is proven that in England, lots of people get sliced up, and the murderers there are quite adept at any blade they get their hand on.
Yeah.
I understand that, but
well, I feel
So,
like
I
if you
mean-
just follow the murder thing to its logical conclusion, if you take away the guns, you're gonna have mass death less frequently, but it's not gonna stop murder.
Yeah, so does that mean that
here definitely not. We
Right.
It's the subconscious mind of solutions is always in with your opponent dead, but
Right, but then whatever you think about the people that are doing the mass shootings, like how many of them are
I know.
NRA members?
I think they all have in common the fact that they're dicks.
Exactly. So how do we?
Like they
how do
weren't the bully kid. They
how
were
do
the
we
guy that's
remove
sitting over
dicks?
there like polishing their gun, going, "I'm gonna get you."
Right. Well, how do we eradicate dicks, though? I feel like that's the bigger
Well,
problem.
I do have something that is the solution that no one likes to hear,
I'd love to hear it.
which is that you don't think in the here and now, and you plan for a future where investments put into the next generation,
Yeah, no shit.
so that we have people that grow up competent and capable and can. You use humans as a human resource manager would. You think, what are the tools that the next generation will need to not be idiots,
Right.
and then you put that into practice.
But is that not what every generation prior to us has done?
Yeah, prior to us, I mean, if your parents grew up in the 80s, they spent their credit on sports cards and figure out ways to cheat on their wives, like,
Right.
and then they left you alone to play with fucking trying to see between the squiggly lines on Showtime to see tits at night.
I don't know, my
Boobs.
point is that if it's our goal to set up future generations to be better than we are, the entire course of human history has been improving, theoretically.
No, definitely not. There's the Dark Ages for a long time.
But we don't
There's
know
like
what happened in the Dark
there's-
Ages.
multiple successions of human advancement that were followed by grim, dark, terrible, not remembering how they did that shit.
All right, well,
We're
what
on the
about
brink of
now?
that, like right
Right.
now.
Well, technologically, we're more advanced than we've been for a while. What do you think our shortcoming is as a society? Is it just being
Racism,
dicks?
homophobia.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
care
but that
about
shit's
other
been around
people.
forever.
Something that I take issue that I saw you bringing up on the podcast many times before is just an overwhelming desire to never involve yourself with children by having them or by mentoring them, which is short-sighted because Kentucky's not overpopulated. We're losing massive populations from all the cities all the time.
Right.
Delhi, Hong Kong, there's places that's a problem,
Right.
but it's not
Yeah.
here. So if your main excuse for not wanting to procreate is because of overpopulation, that's a bad argument. If it's because
Right.
you want to do what you want to do whenever you want to do
Right.
it, I get it. But
Yeah.
Right.
like, to me, having kids was the greatest blessing. It made the world new again. And every time I see them experience something and get stoked on it, I remember what it is to be young.
Right.
And it
Ooh,
brings
yeah.
it close to me. And I know I can draw on their strength as I get older. And it's
Yeah.
awesome.
I know since I've gotten older, I'm going to stay on the topic of kids, but I have wondered about that. Like, I've wanted kids more now than I ever have. I never, ever. It was not even, it wasn't going to be a conversation because it wasn't happening.
Well, because you're being forced to. It was brought onto you by authority that wasn't your own. Like
Right.
People telling you this is what you got to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my God, all the people asking constantly, when are you going to have kids? It made me want to not have kids just to
In
spite
spite,
them. Yes.
yeah.
Like,
Probably
it's
right
so
after
irritating.
you fuck off.
Like, what? Because I'm a woman, I have to have a baby? Like, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the idea of them being excited about, like, new things,
Yeah.
I have recently gotten, like, more interested, I guess, in the idea of children for that reason. I just
Yeah,
think
it's a
it
beautiful
would-
thing, for
Yeah, I
sure.
think it would be kind of cool. But then I got to look at everything that I would be giving up, which is really doing what I want whenever I want. And I don't know if I'm willing to do that.
And that's-
but I am more open to the idea.
And on a subconscious level, I had decided early on that I would never have kids. And so, but by the time I was faced with the fact that I was going to be a dad, even though like she had told me that the stars and the moon and the sun were aligned and that there's no chance. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and or like the pull-out method definitely works. And, like all the things that, so, but I was like, well, I'm not really missing anything. Like all my friends are on bar stools now.
Right.
Like they're not
Oh, yeah.
ready to go to Mexico with me. They're not ready to go mountain biking. They're just telling stories of when things happened.
right.
Yeah, we-
Absolutely.
And so it's like, I'm not, there's a small period of like 2 years where the kid sort of can be loud or misbehave in public. But
Yeah.
if anyone around you faults you for that fuck them, you
Yeah,
know?
they-
You know,
yeah.
like then, yeah.
Oh, sorry. She was talking about that, something that I've been really wanting to see, and I would give anything to see it, is to have a child that is part me, part her, and then watch that kid, like, be able to instill things in them and just see where they go. Because a child's, like, creativity and all that shit that comes with that wonder that a child has and how they would be raised and what I could teach them, where they would go. Like, it would be so amazing to watch a little human figure out the world, because I know how it was for me. I'd like to see it in a child, in that wonder and where they went and what I could give them and tools that I can give them that I didn't have, and see what they do with it. And just watch them learn would be amazing, because I think that's a process it's impossible to me. Like that, I know I went through it, but I don't know how I went through it. I think it'd be cool to see what like a little me and her would do, in the situations that we put them in, you know?
It'd be a chaos.
It'd be a chaos bit for sure.
Chaos.
How about you, Ian?
I can see where it would be interesting and fun at times, but I don't particularly want to deal with it.
That's what I think. Overall, I still stand firm that I don't want kids, but I am more open to the idea than I've ever been. Of course, that might just be the biological clock ticking.
Yeah, I feel
Oh,
like the
yeah.
older I get,
Vagina's
like
drying up.
the less uncool with it I would be. But it would have to be like a video game or like an alternate reality that I could visit for a minute. It's just that kind of commitment
No
to
shit.
something like that. It's like,
Yeah.
Did something kick in? So say right when she told you, like, you know, I'm pregnant, did something about you, because you said that previously before that you weren't, you know, I want to have kids and all that shit. Was there something that like a flip switch and it changed the way you thought?
Somewhat. It wasn't. My first impulse was to be extremely selfish. Think about all the things like I wouldn't be able to do. Woe is me. And then I was doing the woe is me game the first week. I'd found out because I wasn't expecting the information, and I ran into my friend Tim Mateo. He's struggles with mental illness. He's homeless. He's squat out front of a building downtown. He's got tattoos on it where his eyebrows should be, and he's just a guy that just is kind of nuts. But and I was telling him about it, and he looked at me and he goes, "It's a love you'll have never known before." And he said it with the highest degree of sincerity. And this guy can't even see his kids. He's nuts. He loved his kid and was there when he could be until he couldn't.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And just the sincerity of that statement, it just spun my head around to be like, this isn't even about me anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And then other ways, just as time went on, I learned, but especially by Gray, my 7-year-old, like just when he was a baby, I knew how, when it was annoying to hold the baby first time around, like with Gray, it was like, I couldn't want to put him down because I knew that this moment's going to be over so soon.
Right.
It's just the smallest blip in my life that I'll get to be there for them and and to have them look to me for everything.
Right.
Because they're going to want to, as they just want to do what they want to do. And
Yeah.
so it's cool. It's just, to me, it's almost like a small amount of time to reap the rewards of something that's so profoundly magical and just awesome.
I fear
This is coming from somebody that fucking hated the idea of
Yeah.
having kids, you know?
Hell yeah.
That's something that drags me away from it. I think mostly is because I don't want to screw them up like my parents screwed me up. I fear that, but also I think something that'd be really strange is they are a physical representation of time passing. So as you see them grow, you realize, like, you actually see time at that point. Whereas before, it's this fictitious thing on a dial on the wall.
If you don't have physical representation such as celebrating New Year's or birthdays, it will hit you like a ton of bricks.
Oh, like the death thing.
It will just all of a sudden your back's out. You can't say yes to jobs you used to.
Yeah.
It's
Like the death thing.
enjoy the time you're in, all the time that you're in it. Like,
Yeah.
I look forward. That's the coolest thing about being an artist. I didn't have to figure it out in my 20s and be dead by 27 like musicians were subscribed to, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, all my favorite artists did their best work after 40. Goya did his black period after he was 40. Like, when he'd gone mad and been banished from the kingdom, and like,
Yeah, man.
like cool stuff happens because you've had a life you've lived, and then you put it to paper. And so, yeah, and even when they say a young playwright, they're talking about people in their 60s.
Oh, yeah.
It's only musicians that get screwed by this whole like timeline.
Right.
And they did. That's why I told him, I was like, I really want to play music and shit like that. But I mean, I guess the way the world works at this point, I always feel like, oh, well, you have to get big, 16, 17, 18. You have to be big by 20, 21. But I guess you can get big at anything and be great at anything at any age or point in your life. which is weird.
Especially nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, getting stuck on the idea of I'm doing this so I can be famous is,
That's a killer.
yeah, definitely. Do it because you enjoy it, or because other people enjoy what you're doing. Like, don't do it so I can be huge and rich and famous.
Make money.
Well,
It's,
if you met handlers, the people that like make sure that the guarantee list for musicians or professional performers is met, they'll tell you that it's always the people that are over 30 that know to say thank you.
yeah.
Like
Ooh,
they've
shit.
seen their star rise and fall. They don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
you know, those spring chickens, those 17, 18, 19 years old,
Yeah.
it hit them all at once. They're living their life.
Assholes.
Everybody's just a napkin to them, you know, they just
Yeah.
throw them away. And
Yeah.
like,
Dude,
Yeah.
oh, I want to make one comment. I'm sorry because I'm hijacking that conversation. I'm going
No, you're
back
fine.
to a portion that you all were speaking about. So, do you think, because we see that with our friends' kids and stuff and them being in school, we are at a time, and I know there's a lot of older people that just can't get on board, and they're going to be homophobic till they die. They're going to be racist until they die. That's just them, right? But the schools that these kids are going to, the public school, the private school, they're all getting comfortable with the ideal of homosexuality, gender fluidity. Yeah. They don't really talk about race. And there are some out here, especially that teach their kid that. And then unfortunately that kid speaks the same way as their parents, but it's becoming more spread out, and it's weeding out those, people, all that hate, And I think that we are in a process of growth. It's going to hurt because people don't like to change, but if you start kids off early accepting people for who they are, being nice, being friendly, sharing, all that shit that they try to teach us when we were a kid and we didn't learn. The world just seems like it's being more accepting of everything, right? Where we're all becoming neutral to all ideals such as racism, religion, homosexuality, gender, all that shit. So do you think that if we continue that process, will we get to a place where we don't really need guns because we accept that other person for being whatever we would otherwise hate because of how we were taught? You know what I mean? Did I make that point right? Maybe. Since we're Since we're moving to a place of acceptance, will that hate fade away that causes us to use guns? There we go.
There you go.
So all that to say that. You think that...
I say for the most part. I mean, I don't think it'll ever be completely gone, but it might take 50 years to get there because it kind of moves slow in a group of people. But I think maybe. I like to think that it will. Realistically, I don't know.
I don't think it will. It's like the idea of getting rid of evil.
Hateful.
No, I mean, it's just...
evil's always going to be
Well,
there.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like,
I
oh,
just
let's,
think it'll be
let's
less
get rid
prominent.
of bad shit. Oh, that's a great idea, but it's not going to happen.
I don't think it'll be gone forever or anything. I think it'll just be less frequent.
Well, look at the advantages that we have. We're a species that when we have a baby, it is literally helpless for almost 3 years at least.
Right.
Meaning it has to be loved. It's the only thing that's going to get it through there.
Right.
Sometimes they'll make it through if they're left feral, but
But then they're just horrible
is
adults.
as essential an ingredient to our species as any other emotion, if not more so.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we have the capacity for that, and that we can remember that, it's to our advantage.
Right.
And I see with them own kids, they don't understand racism or homophobia at all.
Right.
And now that so many toys are not specifically branded girl, boy, that my kids can play with the same toys together by and large. There's enough cool stuff about the girly girl toys that my daughter likes versus the Nerf guns that my son likes, that they can play with those without any form of shame because you're not taught shame for being interested in girly things or vice versa. That there's definitely a unity, and that's part of the reason I don't get so upset about everyone that supports Trump's or the Make America Great Again. It's like America's so great right now, and everyone under 30 fucking gets it.
Right.
And you guys are dying. left and right. You've done diabetic your whole life to shit, and you're fucking dying, and the tomorrow does not belong to you.
Right.
You know, it belongs to the young, and they figured it out, and they're not. Even if in name you are Republican everywhere because of your gerrymandering and the rigging elections and saying that anyone that's Democrat is a liar and rigging elections, you won't win in the long run because you didn't spend the time to inform and promote any agenda that John Wayne's don't exist anymore.
Right.
You know, like we have a world that is way more fresh. There's more people alive under 30 than there is alive above it.
Right.
You know, they are the next. So
Yeah. No,
it gives
for
me a
sure.
lot of hope. If
Hell
that
yeah.
kind of
That's a
answers
lot of
that.
hope. Oh, yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
it solves gun violence, but yeah, it's
No, I'm just saying that it would decrease a lot. And I mean, we'll get to a place where those people grow up and they make policies that get rid of this or that, and they'll be okay with it, whereas otherwise we would fight that. I just think that children and I think that teenagers are being so accepting now is a beautiful thing. And you talk about having a kid and that love that you can't really express. It's the love that you'd never feel otherwise, right?
Yes.
If you didn't have a kid. I sent you a bunch of them. They're NDEs, and where people have near-death experiences and they go off to this thing. They talk about this light, and they all talk about this feeling. And they call it love, but they said love won't explain it because of how we understand love out here. And it's a love that this light gives you. It's this warmth. It's this whole being of unity and all that. It just how they explain it's awesome, but they still say it doesn't come close to that love. And when you said that, I'm like, maybe that's the love they're talking about. Something that just exists. We call it love, but it's hard to explain. That feeling you get toward your
there's a
having
lot of
child.
branches of loves, and that could be even one more powerful that we can look forward to instead of being terrified.
Terrified of it, yeah, man. I think it's comforting to know that there's something, even whatever you want to call it, but I've always wondered that. I would love to know the feeling of having something that is actually truly a part of myself, living in the world and being a part of that movement, that acceptance movement, the movement of unity. That would be beautiful to have a child that gets to be raised in that. I just hope that.
But a really big shout out to all the teachers and volunteers and aunts and uncles and grandmas and everybody that makes time for kids that are not just the parents, because we worry so much about people who prey on children. If their time is occupied with loved ones, then they're not going to get isolated. They're not going to
have that opportunity to
that predator has two choices. They can either bribe them or terrorize them, or some combination of those two, and they don't get to play any of those tricks if their time is occupied with people can be trusted and they love them.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh no. Yeah, I can see that for sure. And that's one of the conservatives' biggest argument are the Q or right wing people that this movement of like everybody's a fucking pedophile and shit like that.
Everyone's lying.
But if you paid more attention, like you said, to the children and occupying their time, educating them, working with them, teaching them art, anything like that, you don't have that opportunity. Don't give them an iPad and just send them out to the, whatever, to just, wonder or whatever, or drop them off at the movies and just forget about it. So be a parent, be an educator, be a thing. So definitely a shout out to those people, because that's a hard thing to do. Like Lance does it, and he does it to kids that he doesn't even know. And we've heard through friends that how his those events go, and it sounds like a beautiful experience for those children, especially like at youth children that don't have a lot. It's even more beautiful because those people were forgot about, and then you're taking your time to do it. So yeah, a huge shout out to those people. It's very unselfish, and it's very moving. I like it for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude, we have hijacked you for like 2 hours.
Damn, is it?
Did you
really?
realize that?
Well, I could tell that time was moving on, just mainly because I was like, well, I drank that, and now I got to pee. And
Yeah, dude.
Dude, when I peed, it was so good.
Oh, I know.
yeah, I saw you get up. I was like, man,
That must be nice.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
No, man. I mean, we can end it there, and then
I'm
you know,
okay with that.
You're cool.
I think we covered quite a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, dude. We got.
Did you have a list? Did you go over everything you were going?
Oh
for?
no, we didn't have a list. We did we did a lot of
It's all at
studying
the
on
top.
you.
You're getting good at this.
Yeah, man. We do. I swear, man. Make sure to tell Jennifer. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Tell Jennifer that we greatly appreciate the time away and you
Thanks,
coming here to
Jennifer.
be with us, because I know that's a sacrifice for them and your kids. But
Jennifer, I love you.
yeah, man. Thank you so much for
Jennifer,
coming
we
out.
love you too.
And I know you didn't know us from Adam, but we appreciate you coming out and hanging out.
Hey.
Yeah, dude. And you said you'll have a website up soon, but where can people find any
Right
of
now,
your work?
if you want to see what I'm about, the best way is Instagram at Damon Paints. I believe my TikTok is at Damon Paints too, but I've never had to announce my TikTok before. So I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and it's linked in your actually on your Instagram because they're
okay,
cross
yeah,
posted.
yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be able to find it that way. But yeah, we'll link it too in the bottom in the description.
We might.
I'm on Facebook too, but it's mainly just pictures of my kids. So.
Yeah. But no, dude, we greatly appreciate it, and it's been an
thanks,
amazing
man.
episode, man. Thank you for joining us for episode 135 of the Wildly Uninteresting Podcast.
135.
Yeah, man.
I gotta do it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, like, subscribe, do all that shit. Thank you for listening to another episode, and thank you for being with us all of last year. For those who came to every episode, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Skibbity bop bop, bop bop, flippity boo, flip, flippity bippity bop, bip bop.
Wildly Uninteresting. Podcast,
Ding, ding, ding.
podcast,
Yeah.
podcast. I can't believe.